Chapter 3250. When Qin Feiyang thought of this, he couldn't help but feel excited. Because this was the only explanation, and it completely matched the conditions for the 4 divine arts to mutate. If this was really the case, then there was no need for him to look for other supreme-grade divine arts. He only needed to comprehend the laws of slaughter, strength, war, and wind. He and Madman had been studying the 5th profundity of the law of slaughter in the Black Tortoise world all these years. Therefore, they had already reached the final step in comprehending the 5th profundity. They were only missing an opportunity. By the time he comprehended the 5th profundity, the transformation of the 4 great heaven-defying divine arts would be completely verified. Rumble. At the same time, all kinds of profound mysteries and divine abilities rushed towards Nie Xiang with overwhelming power. This formation is quite scary, but it won't be able to withstand a single blow. Nie Xiang smiled disdainfully. The 5th profundity of the law of slaughter appeared as he furiously slashed out. Boom! Apart from the law of lightning and the 5th profundity of the law of karma, all the other profundities were instantly annihilated. The stalemate lasted for several dozen breaths. The 5th profundity of the law of slaughter and the law of karma shattered at the same time. Qin Feiyang's 5th profundity of the law of lightning was also on the verge of shattering. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with killing intent. The 5th profundity turned into lightning that swept across the sky and instantly engulfed Nie Xiang. Did he succeed? Madman was stunned. Even if Nie Xiang was a low-stage sovereign, he should be heavily injured after being engulfed by the 5th profundity of the law of lightning. However, when the lightning dissipated and Nie Xiang's figure was revealed, Madman's expression froze. Nie Xiang's face was filled with mockery, and there was a blood-red armor on his body. This armor flickered with blood-red light as if it was made of fresh blood. It emitted a shocking baleful aura. It was also because of this armor that he didn't have any injuries on his body. This is also a supreme-grade divine artifact. Elder Hua exclaimed. What? Madman's eyes trembled. Qin Feiyang's pupils suddenly shrank. Not only did he have a supreme-level heaven-defying divine weapon, but he also had a supreme-level heaven-defying armor, and even a supreme-level heaven-defying auxiliary divine technique. How could he fight against 3 supreme-level divine objects? Old Dog Hai, you are too despicable. Madman stared at Old Hai and roared. Obviously, both the halberd and the blood-red armor had been given to Nie Xiang by Old Hai before the battle. Despicable? You're too naive. Don't you know that the winner takes all? Besides, these 2 divine items were given to Nie Xiang by me during the battle. I didn't break any rules, so how is that despicable? You should say that your blood hall's foundation is too strong. Old Hai sneered. Madman's face sank. The White Phoenix divine sword was restrained by the Fangtian halberd and could not help Qin Feiyang at all. In terms of deity arts and cultivation, Qin Feiyang was completely suppressed by Nie Xiang. Now, Nie Xiang had an additional exalted-level heaven-defying armor. In addition to the exalted-level heaven-defying auxiliary divine technique, Qin Feiyang had no chance of victory. Sigh. It's this old man's fault. This old man underestimated the Blood Hall's desire to kill Qin Feiyang. Old Hua shook his head and sighed. Yeah. We should also give Qin Feiyang a few supreme-level heaven-defying divine artifacts. Chu Yun nodded. What's the use of saying this now? Madman stared at the 2 of them, then looked at Qin Feiyang and muttered, Bastard, you must hold on. Do you know? You're really like an ant now. You're desperately struggling and resisting, but it's still meaningless. Nie Xiang, who was wearing armor, looked at Qin Feiyang with contempt. Even an ant has a time when it can defeat an elephant. Qin Feiyang said. At this moment, even he felt an unprecedented pressure. If the slaughter domain, 3,000 incarnations, and battle soul could be activated, he wouldn't be afraid at all. Even if this person had a few more supreme-level heaven-defying armors, he would still have a way to kill this person. But now, all of these had been restricted. The remaining methods couldn't fight this person at all. An ant defeating an elephant? This is the first time I've heard such ridiculous words. Nie Xiang raised his head and laughed. Old Hai raised his eyebrows and shouted, Nie Xiang, why are you talking so much nonsense? Hurry up and kill him for me. Although Nie Xiang had completely suppressed Qin Feiyang, he was still afraid of accidents happening. Because there were too many possibilities on this boy. Nie Xiang glanced at Old Hai, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, I originally wanted to play with you for a while, but there's no other way. Deputy Hall Master is anxious, so I can only send you to hell. Boom! As his voice fell, the fifth profound of the slaughter law appeared again. Following closely, 2 more law powers emerged. They were the law of sword and the law of war. 5th level battle intent, open. Nie Xiang let out a low roar, and a monstrous battle intent erupted. His entire person instantly transformed into a war god. Immediately, the 5th profound of the law of sword, the raging dragon, also appeared. So he also mastered the law of war, no wonder he's so arrogant. Someone muttered. The power of the law of war had already been reflected in the battle between Wang Kuang and the disciple of the Devil Palace. It was no exaggeration to say that having the law of war was equivalent to having an immortal body. As long as the Sea of Qi and Divine Soul were still there, he could continue to fight until the other party was exhausted. So, opponents of the same realm, those who had the law of war were basically guaranteed to win, not to mention that Qin Feiyang was one small realm weaker than Nie Xiang. In everyone's heart, this battle was already without suspense. Not only was Nie Xiang's cultivation stronger than Qin Feiyang, even the divine arts and artifacts were superior. Therefore, Qin Feiyang was bound to lose. Despair. Roar. Make your final struggle. Nie Xiang laughed wildly. The law of slaughter and the 5th profound of the law of sword instantly carried the power to destroy the world as they charged towards Qin Feiyang. What should we do? Frenzy stared at Qin Feiyang, his heart incomparably anxious. Elder Hua and Chu Yun were also nervous. Needless to say, the Black Wing Emperor roared hysterically, hurry up and run, don't worry about me, it's not worth dying here for me. As long as Qin Feiyang wanted to leave, no one could stop him. However, Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear, his eyes filled with stubbornness. The 5th profound of the law of karma and the law of thunder appeared at the same time, roaring towards the 2 great profound of the law of thunder. It's meaningless. Nie Xiang laughed loudly. With a loud bang, the 4 great profound of the law of war collided. Qin Feiyang immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated, his face as pale as paper. At the same time, the 5th profound of the law of thunder didn't have any power to resist and directly shattered. Facing Nie Xiang's 2 great profound of the law of karma, the 5th profound of the law of karma also disintegrated. If only Qin Feiyang's cultivation was also at the early stage of the Dominator realm. Yeah. At the same level, the law of karma can completely crush the opponent. Someone shook his head and sighed. The outcome was already decided. Elder Hua clenched his fists and transmitted his voice, no, he can't die here. Little Yun, prepare to save him. Save him. Chu Yun was shocked and hurriedly looked at Elder Hua. We can't care so much now. If the little rabbit comes looking for trouble, we'll just die together with it. Elder Hua said in a deep voice. Whoosh. Chu Yun took a deep breath, and then her eyes became incomparably sharp as the law of time and space spread out. Chu Yun, what are you doing? Not only was Elder Hai paying attention to the battlefield, but he was also monitoring Elder Hua and Chu Yun. Because he was worried that Elder Hua and Chu Yun would attack at the critical moment, he immediately discovered that Chu Yun had activated the law of time and hurriedly shouted. Immediately. The little rabbit also looked at Chu Yun with a cold glint in its eyes. Elder Hua, Chu Yun, I don't need your help. However, at this moment, Qin Feiyang's voice sounded. The two immediately looked at Qin Feiyang and saw that at this moment, Qin Feiyang's expression was calm in the face of the two great fifth ultimates. I can do it. Qin Feiyang spoke again, his eyes still locked on the two great fifth ultimates. You can do it? Huh, even now, you still dare to boast. Nie Xiang laughed mockingly. However, facing such mockery, Qin Feiyang didn't get angry. Instead, he slowly closed his eyes. Indeed. Not only was Nie Xiang's cultivation strong, but he also had three great supreme-level heaven-defying divine items. It could be said that even a lesser dominator like Jiang Feitian could only be abused in front of him. Therefore, with just his current strength, wanting to defeat Nie Xiang was simply a pipe dream. Now, if he wanted to break out of this situation, he only had one path. That was to comprehend the fifth profundity of a law and raise his cultivation to lesser dominator. Now, he only had the fourth profundity of the law of slaughter left. The other four were only at the third profundity. Therefore, he could only comprehend the fifth profundity of the law of slaughter. At this moment it was obviously not the time to comprehend the profundity of the law. Because in this situation, to comprehend the profundity of the law was undoubtedly courting death. However, Qin Feiyang was an exception. Thinking back to the past, countless times he had tried to break through at the edge of life and death because his nature was the same as others. When others faced danger, they would be flustered and anxious, unable to calm down. However, since young, the more dangerous the situation was, the calmer he would be. As for the fifth profundity of the law of slaughter, he and the madman had been discussing it for a long time. The only thing he lacked was an opportunity. He believed that he could do it. He even closed his eyes. What is he doing? Waiting for death? That shouldn't be the case. He doesn't seem like the kind of person who is waiting for death. Wait. Could it be that he wants to learn from Madman Mo and find an opportunity to break through at the edge of death? Everyone was bewildered. Learn from me? He's thinking too much. I was taught by him. When the madman heard these discussions, he couldn't help but laugh in his heart. Although he had always been bold, he didn't dare to do something so exciting. At the very least, before he met Qin Feiyang, he had never done something so risky. For example, when he was comprehending the fourth and fifth profundities of the law of lightning, it was Qin Feiyang who was holding him back. Therefore, it wasn't Qin Feiyang learning from him, it was he learning from Qin Feiyang. But to be honest, doing this kind of thing was really exciting. Chapter 3251. To actually comprehend the power of laws at this time, you really haven't died before. Nie Xiang was also extremely angry. This was simply ignoring his existence. Swoosh. Immediately. He used the supreme-level heaven-defying auxiliary technique, following closely behind the two profound laws, and charged towards Qin Feiyang. At this moment, Qin Feiyang was already motionless, as if he had turned into a stone statue. The fifth profound laws of sword law and slaughter law arrived. Just as Qin Feiyang was about to die, a black armor appeared on Qin Feiyang's body. That's right. This was the legendary heaven-defying artifact given to him by the vice leader, the Spectre Armor. The Spectre Armor had not yet been sent to the land of Source, so it had been residing in Qin Feiyang's body. At this moment, the appearance of the Spectre Armor was also a risk of death. After all, it was two great fifth profound laws. However, this was also an opportunity for it. Because Qin Feiyang said that he would only let it enter the land of source after seeing its performance, it risked its life to buy some time for Qin Feiyang. Boom! The two profound laws attacked, and Qin Feiyang was sent flying on the spot, blood gushing out. However, even though he was fatally injured, he was still like a stone statue, not moving at all. Moreover, there was no pain on his face. He seemed extremely calm, as if he did not feel any pain. However, the specter armor was bombarded by the two profound laws and shattered on the spot. The divine light also dimmed, and it had no choice but to return to Qin Feiyang's body. Let's see who can save you. Nie Xiang laughed sinisterly. The two profound laws continued to attack Qin Feiyang. Clang! At this moment, accompanied by a loud noise, another divine artifact flew out from Qin Feiyang's body. This was a long sword, its entire body like fire, 3 feet long, 3 fingers wide, and its hilt was shaped like a qilin. That's right. This was also a reward given to him by the Vice Alliance leader. It was called the Qilin Divine Sword, and it was also a legendary divine weapon. The Qilin sword was the same as the ghost battle armor. It wasn't sent directly to the land of origin. It was only sent to the land of origin to take a look and understand it. Then, it would depend on their performance. At this moment, the Qilin sword also decisively came out to protect its master. However, after all, it was only a legendary artifact. How could it withstand the fifth profound meaning? With a loud crack, the divine Qilin sword also broke on the spot and quickly returned to Qin Feiyang's body. They had already done their best. If he continued to fight, he would definitely be destroyed. This scene moved the people from the various forces. Thinking back to how the Crimson Fire godly armor betrayed Qin Feiyang and how the two godly artifacts risked their lives to protect Qin Feiyang, the difference between them was like heaven and earth. Many people couldn't figure it out. Just what kind of charm did this kid have to make these divine artifacts so loyal? However, after all, it was only a legendary artifact and could not help Qin Feiyang completely solve the current crisis. Go to hell! Nie Xiang roared. The two profound meanings were once again in front of Qin Feiyang. But at this moment, clang! Suddenly, there was an ear-piercing sword sound in the sky. The white phoenix godly sword shook off the heavenly halberd with all its might and blocked in front of Qin Feiyang like a bolt of lightning. Thousands of sword chi turned into a huge wave and pounced on the two profound meanings. Boom! The supreme-grade godly artifact was indeed extraordinary. It actually blocked the two profound meanings. What are you doing? Didn't I ask you to hold it back? Nie Xiang immediately looked at the heavenly halberd and roared in exasperation. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was about to die, the white phoenix godly sword came to disrupt the situation. How could he not be angry? A supreme-grade godly artifact that is ready to go all out. I can't stop it. The heavenly halberd brought along a rolling wave of blood and charged toward the white phoenix godly sword. At the same time, Nie Xiang also controlled the two profound meanings to madly collide with the huge wave formed by the sword chi. Seeing this, Madman's eyes suddenly lit up as he thought of a way to stall for time. He shouted, "White Phoenix godly sword, don't fight head-on. Take old Qin and escape. Give him enough time." Hearing this, the white phoenix godly sword immediately released a wisp of sword chi and swept up Qin Feiyang before turning around and flying away. This works too? Everyone looked at this scene in astonishment. Deputy Palace Master, this, Nie Xiang was also the same. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. Old Hai was naturally furious as he turned to look at Little Rabbit. This doesn't violate the rules. Little Rabbit shook her head and said while drinking wine. No violation? Old Hai's face was instantly filled with anger. This was clearly protecting Qin Feiyang. What? You forgot so quickly? At the beginning, Uncle Rabbit said that the entire Heavenly Cloud Sea is their battlefield. So, as long as they are still in the Heavenly Cloud Sea, it's not a violation. Besides, they aren't stupid. If they can't win, of course they have to run. Don't tell me they'll just stand there and let you kill them? Little Rabbit's face was filled with disdain. Old Hai couldn't help but be angry when he heard this. That's right. If they can't win, then they'll temporarily hide. Anyway, there's no time limit. Even if they fight for decades or centuries, it doesn't matter. Elder Hu patted his head. If that's the case, with the White Phoenix godly sword strength, he should be able to stall for some time. But can he really succeed? If he can't succeed, he will still die in the end. Chu Yun looked at the White Phoenix godly sword and Qin Feiyang in the distance and was worried. Old Hai, this is indeed not a violation, so stop pestering endlessly. The powerhouses of the Heavenly Palace also spoke. That's right. You're the Deputy Palace Master of the Blood Palace. Can't you be more rational? The powerhouses of the Divine Palace also said. What does it have to do with you? Old Hai glared angrily at the powerhouses of the two sides. Then, he looked at Nia Xiang, who was still standing there in a daze, and shouted, "Hurry up and chase after them." Nia Xiang shuddered and immediately looked at the Sky Piercer and shouted, "Hurry." The Sky Piercer released a wisp of divine power and swept Nia Xiang up. Then, it chased after the White Phoenix godly sword and Qin Feiyang at lightning speed. Let's go and see. Someone said. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Little Rabbit waved her paw, and a huge image immediately appeared in the sky above Sky Cloud Island. Whether it was Qin Feiyang and the White Phoenix godly sword, or Nia Xiang and the Sky Piercer, they could all see it clearly. In the sky above the sea. As Nia Xiang had stopped for a while, the distance between the two had widened. The Sky Piercer's weapon spirit said, "The White Phoenix godly sword strength is not weaker than mine. It's not easy to chase after it. Hurry up and think of another way. You still have the nerve to talk. If it weren't for your uselessness, Qin Feiyang would have died in my hands." Nia Xiang snorted coldly. Being arrogant in front of me, are you courting death? Do you know your own identity? The Sky Piercer's weapon spirit was furious. Nia Xiang felt the killing intent of the Sky Piercer and couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. How could he forget that the owner of this supreme-level heaven-defying divine artifact was not him at all in a moment of anger? In front of this divine artifact, even if this divine artifact killed him, Old Hai wouldn't say anything. This time, he became obedient. He activated the supreme-level heaven-defying auxiliary divine technique, and his speed soared. And in the image above Sky Cloud Island, not only could they see Qin Feiyang and the others, but they could also hear their conversation. Old Hai looked at Nia Xiang angrily. If there was a problem, he would definitely think of a way to remedy it. But this Nia Xiang only knew how to blame the Sky Piercer. It was fine if there was no comparison. But now, first the madman turned the tables, and now Qin Feiyang was looking for hope in a desperate situation in order to win this battle. In comparison, the disciples of his blood hall were really weak. Elder Hua, Chu Yun, is there anyone stronger among the core disciples of the blood hall? The madman glanced at the people of the blood hall, and his eyes flickered. Stronger? Elder Hua was slightly taken aback. Are you asking if there are people like you and Qin Feiyang who have grasped the strongest law? Yes. The madman nodded. If there were, then even if Qin Feiyang won in the end, there would definitely be a bloody battle waiting for them. There must be. Not only the Blood Hall, my Demon Hall, Sky Hall, and Deity Hall actually have them. Elder Hua hesitated for a moment before nodding. There are? The madman raised his eyebrows. But you don't have to worry, those who have comprehended the strongest law are the top disciples of the various forces. For example, although my demon hall has such disciples, we didn't bring them this time. Elder Hua transmitted his voice. Didn't bring them? The madman was stunned. That's right. This kind of disciple is the key to nurture and protect. Normally, we wouldn't let them come out. And for this exchange, the various forces also know that the exchange is just a cover. Our real goal is to deal with you and Qin Feiyang, so there's no need to bring them along. Furthermore, our 4 super forces have been fighting openly and secretly, so we don't dare to easily expose the talents of these disciples. Because if the other 3 forces know that you have an extremely outstanding disciple, then it's very likely that they will assassinate you. Of course, you and Qin Feiyang are different. After all, you have a sovereign weapon. As long as they aren't stupid, they won't provoke you. Elder Hua transmitted his voice. But someone just has to provoke us. The madman looked at the people of the blood hall with a cold glint in his eyes. This blood hall probably has no choice but to come looking for trouble with you. Elder Hua shook his head. He didn't know before, but when he learned about the situation of Qin Feiyang and the others in the Black Tortoise world, he had a rough guess in his heart. It was very likely that Ice Dragon was behind this. Whether or not they had no choice, this enmity has already been formed, and they must pay the price for it. The madman smiled sinisterly. The others could be forgiven, but the blood hall was absolutely unforgivable. Elder Hua glanced at the madman, then raised his head to look at the people of the blood hall, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. The blood hall and demon hall had already formed a deep enmity, so he had always supported the madman and Qin Feiyang. Although there were suspicions of using the 2 of them, to put it bluntly, weren't Qin Feiyang and Ice Dragon using the demon hall as well? It was just that the way they interacted was different. They treated each other with sincerity. Chapter 3252. Above the Sea. The White Phoenix Divine Sword carried Qin Feiyang as fast as lightning and gradually began to encounter sea beasts. When these sea beasts sensed the White Phoenix Divine Sword's aura, they all retreated to the side. Behind them, Nie Xiang and the halberd chased after them. Nie Xiang was arrogant and his methods were fierce, but he didn't dare to harm these sea beasts. This was because before he came, his superiors had already instructed him not to harm the sea beasts of the heavenly clouds ocean no matter what the situation was. The reason was that the beast god of the heavenly clouds ocean was also a protective lord. If you dared to start a massacre in the heavenly clouds ocean, you would be courting death. That should be Qin Feiyang. He's actually being chased and beaten up. Looks like he's not as powerful as the rumors say. What do you know? Look at their cultivation. Qin Feiyang is just an early-stage sovereign. Look at the person behind him. He's an early-stage sovereign. And look at his speed. It's obvious that he has grasped a supreme heaven-defying support-type divine technique. Their strength isn't even on the same level. The sea beasts were also discussing amongst themselves. Qin Feiyang, don't waste your energy. You have nowhere to run. Nie Xiang laughed sinisterly. His current speed was actually slightly faster than the White Phoenix Divine Sword. Although the White Phoenix Divine Sword was a supreme heaven-defying divine artifact, it couldn't cultivate support-type divine techniques. Thus, its speed was only comparable to a peak sovereign. As for Nie Xiang, he already had the cultivation of an early-stage sovereign. In addition, he had a supreme heaven-defying support-type divine technique. Thus, in terms of speed alone, he surpassed these divine artifacts. This was also Chu Yun's worry. Although the White Phoenix Divine Sword could stall for some time, it couldn't do so for too long. If Qin Feiyang couldn't reach the early-stage sovereign by then, only death awaited him. In the face of Nie Xiang's clamor, Qin Feiyang was still the same as before. He didn't react at all. His eyes didn't open from start to finish. The current him seemed to have fallen into a deep sleep. However, in his inner world, it was a completely different scene. In the boundless inner world, Qin Feiyang's consciousness stood in the center of the inner world, looking around in confusion. Why did it suddenly appear in his inner world? Not long after he closed his eyes, his consciousness had involuntarily entered his inner world. Could the fifth profundity of the law of slaughter be related to one's inner world? Whoosh! Suddenly, a blood-red figure appeared in front of him. However, the blood shadow's back was facing Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang could only see his back and not his face. However, when Qin Feiyang raised his head to look at the blood shadow, his eyes suddenly trembled. He shouted, "Inner demons, you're not dead." He immediately ran over. Who was more familiar with the inner demons than him? Therefore, even if he only saw the back of the person, he could still recognize him at a glance. However, when he ran behind the blood shadow and reached out to grab him, the inner demons directly dissipated. During the whole process, the inner demons didn't say a word and didn't look back at him. It was as if they didn't know Qin Feiyang existed. "Inner demons," Qin Feiyang roared. His voice spread throughout the inner world. However, he didn't get a response from the inner demons for a long time. Qin Feiyang looked around and gradually lowered his head. He felt extremely bitter in his heart. The inner demons had died long ago. The inner demons he saw now were just a residual shadow left in his heart. Because in his heart, he had always been worried about the inner demons and missed the inner demons. Therefore, over time, the residual shadow of the inner demons would be left in his inner world. "Inner demons, if only you weren't dead," Qin Feiyang murmured. "Really?" Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded behind Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. He quickly turned his head and saw a blood-red figure standing in the void behind him. And this time, the figure was facing him. Qin Feiyang's mind roared. This figure, this face, wasn't it the inner demons? "You're not dead." Qin Feiyang stared at the inner demons with joy. "Whether I'm dead or not depends on you," the inner demon said. "Depends on me?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. What did this mean? "It means that in your heart, if you think I'm dead, then I'm dead. If you think I'm alive, then I'm alive," the inner demon said. "Then are you dead or not?" Qin Feiyang frowned. He didn't understand at all. "Don't you understand? Then let's put it more simply. As long as you think I'm not dead, then I will always exist in this inner world." The inner demons smiled slightly. "Always exist in this inner world," Qin Feiyang murmured inside. "In the end, you're just an afterimage. Although it's an afterimage, I'm real. Unless one day, you completely forget me, then I will disappear." The inner demon smiled. "Forget you," Qin Feiyang whispered and shook his head. "I will never forget you." "No. You must forget me." The smile on the inner demon's face suddenly disappeared. "Why?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "It's because my existence will affect your comprehension of the law of slaughter," the inner demon said. "Affect my comprehension of the law of slaughter?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "That's right. The true essence of the law of slaughter is to stop killing with killing, to kill all the worlds, to prove one's Tao through killing. But you are too merciful, too sentimental, this is your biggest obstacle. So, you must forget me, forget everyone around you, forget all feelings, and become a truly cold-blooded, truly ruthless person. Only then can you comprehend the Tao of the law of slaughter." The inner demon's words were filled with ruthlessness and indifference. It was like a clap of thunder that struck Qin Feiyang's heart. "No. It's not like that." Qin Feiyang roared. Then what do you think it is? The inner demons looked at him with a sneer. Although the law of slaughter represents slaughter, it doesn't mean that you have to cut off all feelings and become a cold-blooded and ruthless person. Kindness, sentiments, feelings, these are the feelings that heaven and earth gave to all living things. Instead of cherishing them, you want to erase them. Isn't this going against the Tao? Just like us in the past. Although you are the inner demons and are blocking my path to becoming a god, have I ever given up on you? No. I used my sincerity to influence you, moved you, and made us rely on each other. Isn't this enough to prove that my approach is correct? Qin Feiyang said angrily. But I still can't escape death. The inner demons shouldn't exist in this world. Why are you so persistent? Forgetting me is good for everyone. The inner demon sighed. Forgetting you, I can't do it. Cutting off all feelings, I can't do it either. If this is really the only way to comprehend the fifth profound of the law of slaughter, I'm willing to give up this law of slaughter. Qin Feiyang shook his head, his eyes filled with certainty. Then he smiled and said, Don't forget, whether it's you and the white-eyed wolf, or Fatso and the others, we all relied on each other's shoulders, relied on each other, and protected each other to get to where we are today. Who's your shoulder? Who's relying on you? Protecting each other? This is just your wishful thinking. Suddenly, another familiar voice sounded. Qin Feiyang turned his head and saw another figure appear behind him. Fatso? Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's right, it's Fat Lord. Fatso nodded his head. Why did you appear in my inner world? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Not only Fatso, but also us. Suddenly, another voice rang out. Qin Feiyang scanned his surroundings and saw silhouettes appearing one after another. There was Uncle Yuan, Lu Hong, Lu Zheng, Ling Yunfei, Lu Jiajin. There was also his second grandpa, his grandfather Lu Yun, his grandfather Emperor Chen, his great-grandfather Emperor Hong, and even his parents. Moreover, Zhao Tailai, Tang Hai, and even the dead Zhuge Mingyang were in the crowd. In short, at this moment, whether they were former enemies or former friends, they all appeared around him. However, the faces that should have been very familiar were extremely strange in Qin Feiyang's eyes at this moment. Even these faces were somewhat ferocious. Qin Feiyang, don't be so naive. We don't want to be your friends at all. Ling Yunfei sneered. What? Qin Feiyang looked at Ling Yunfei in disbelief. Are you surprised? But this is the truth. The reason why we are with you is purely to benefit from you. Ling Yunfei sneered. That's right. I'm afraid only you are stupid enough to think that we are your friends. Lu Hong and Lu Zheng also spoke one after another, their faces full of disdain for Qin Feiyang. No, Qin Feiyang shook his head. One by one, ruthless and indifferent voices were constantly transmitted into his mind, making him in a trance. No? Qin Feiyang, you are too naive. Think about it. If we didn't come to please you and curry favor with you, how could we have achieved what we have now? You are ridiculous. You actually think that we really treat you as a brother. Willow Tree, Blood Kirin, Tang Hai, and the others all spoke one after another. No, Qin Feiyang shook his head frantically. This must be an illusion. There was a loud bang. He released his aura, but everyone was still there. No one disappeared. Feiyang, a voice full of love came into Qin Feiyang's ears. Father, Qin Feiyang quickly looked at the king. Son, come here. The king waved at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang walked in front of the king. But the king, who had been kind a moment ago, suddenly became ferocious. He took out a dagger and stabbed Qin Feiyang's heart. Drops of blood flowed down the dagger. A heart-wrenching pain swept through his body. Father, What are you doing? Qin Feiyang roared angrily. The pain, the blood, and the king's ferocious face. Everything was too real. He couldn't help but wonder if he was in his inner world. Don't blame me. You are too good. You have threatened my position. The king coldly looked down at Qin Feiyang, who was lying in the void. Threatened your position? When Qin Feiyang heard this, he raised his head and looked at the king in disbelief. Although you say that you are not interested in the throne, who knows what you are thinking in your heart? At this time, another young man walked out and stood in front of the king, sneering. This person was Qin Haotian. Furthermore, Qin Yun, Qin Ji and the others were all looking at him with expressions of schadenfreude. Chapter 32:53. Why did it become like this? Weren't these familiar faces his family, friends, and companions? Was this an illusion, or was it real? Those cold and emotionless voices were like a curse, constantly drilling into his head, causing him to be unable to differentiate reality from illusion. Mother, Uncle Yuan, Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Qiuyu and Qin Yuan. Others could betray him, but his mother and Uncle Yuan would never. Don't look at us. If not for your birth, would the Lu family and Qin clan be controlled by the demon ancestor? Your grandfather and your grandfather fell into the demon ancestor's hands and suffered so much? So, I have no love for you, only hate. Lu Qiuyu also had a cold face. No, I don't believe it, Qin Feiyang roared. This is the truth. Qin Yuan also spoke. No, this is not real, you are all illusions, Qin Feiyang roared, and the four profound laws of slaughter appeared, killing in all directions. Just illusions, and they wanted to confuse him? Ah, accompanied by a series of screams, the people around died one by one under the profound laws, blood splattering everywhere. What? Qin Feiyang's expression changed. There was actually blood? And those screams, it was so real. Could it be that this was not an illusion? You are indeed an unfilial son, even killing your own father. The others stared at Qin Feiyang angrily. I am not, Qin Feiyang shook his head crazily, already showing signs of going berserk. You are. Don't deny it. Although you look kind on the surface, your heart is filled with resentment and killing intent. Your heart will always be cold. Quickly tear off that hypocritical face of yours. The inner demons roared. No, you shut up. Qin Feiyang roared, his eyes blood-red, and the sword of slaughter appeared, slashing at the inner demons. Yes. That's it. Kill everyone related to you and sever all emotions. Only then will you be able to comprehend the fifth profound of the law of slaughter. The inner demons cackled. Go to hell. Qin Feiyang's sword arrived and killed the inner demons on the spot. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. You are so ruthless. The relatives, brothers, and companions who have been with you for so many years were all killed. You are a devil. There were still many people alive. Their resentful and cold voices constantly lingered in Qin Feiyang's ears. He scanned his surroundings, and those familiar figures became blurry before his eyes. It was as if he had gone mad, and his mind was in a mess. Don't say any more, please, don't say any more. Qin Feiyang covered his ears, but he couldn't block out the sound at all. His mind became more and more chaotic. Boom! A monstrous murderous aura suddenly erupted as he roared, all of you, go to hell. The four profound meanings of the law of slaughter reappeared, crazily killing in all directions. Those familiar figures, one after another, splattered blood in the sky. The entire inner world was filled with a pungent smell of blood. Yes, that's it, kill everyone related to you. Be a ruthless person. Only then can you make others afraid, think about the blood hall. If you were strong enough, would they dare to provoke you? If you were cold enough and didn't care about the life and death of the Sword Emperor and the others, why would you hesitate in front of them? So, you must be a ruthless person, suddenly. Another voice suddenly sounded, echoing in Qin Feiyang's mind. Who is it? Qin Feiyang's hair fluttered in anger as he scanned his surroundings. I am your voice. In fact, your heart has always been a devil. It's just that you don't want to admit it. That voice sounded again, as if it had a bewitching power, causing Qin Feiyang to walk step by step into the abyss. Don't hide it anymore. Release your true nature. Kill all those who betrayed you. Let them feel despair and pain. Let them tremble at your feet. That voice continued to bewitch him. Kill them all, Qin Feiyang muttered, his face becoming more and more ferocious. His eyes were blood red, revealing a monstrous evil aura. Yes. Kill them all. This is your true nature. That voice cackled. Boom. Qin Feiyang suddenly raised his head and scanned his surroundings. His entire inner world seemed to be drowned in blood at this moment. An endless killing intent roared in all directions. Qin Feiyang could clearly feel that his strength was madly increasing. But outside, his body was cracking inch by inch, and blood was gushing out of his wounds. What's going on? White Phoenix Divine Sword was bewildered. Not good. He has fallen into an illusion created by the law of slaughter. If he doesn't get out of it quickly, he will die. At the same time, Elder Hua looked at Qin Feiyang in the image above Sky Cloud Island, and his face changed greatly. Illusion? Frenzy was surprised. Yes. This illusion is the most crucial step of the law of slaughter. Once you lose your way, only death awaits you. Elder Hua nodded. Is there any way to help him? Frenzy asked. No one can help him. He can only rely on himself. Elder Hua shook his head, his eyes filled with worry. It's not bad to die like this. Opposite. Elder Hai muttered to himself with a sneer on his face. At this moment, Nie Xiang had already caught up with White Phoenix Divine Sword. The White Phoenix Divine Sword saw that the situation was not good, and a surge of divine might emerged. Qin Feiyang immediately flew away by himself. Then, the White Phoenix Divine Sword fully recovered and fought with Nie Xiang and the halberd with everything it had. However, Qin Feiyang was still completely unaware of all of this. In his inner world, Qin Feiyang not only had blood-red eyes, but his hair and skin were also blood-red. His entire body was shrouded in a murderous aura, and he looked like a god of slaughter who had returned. Kill everything, kill to stop killing, kill to prove one's Tao, those who betrayed me, go to hell, he smiled ferociously, and his eyes were cold and ruthless. Is this really your Tao? Suddenly, another voice sounded in his inner world, drifting erratically. Qin Feiyang was suddenly stunned. This voice seemed to be his own voice. Is your Tao really to kill everything? The voice sounded again. In fact, this was the voice deep in his heart. Although he had lost his mind now, there was still a trace of kindness and mercy deep in his heart. In short, this voice was the kind side of his heart. My Tao, Qin Feiyang murmured and seemed to be hesitating again. What was your persistence in the past? What was it that allowed you to walk all the way to where you are today? Think about it carefully. Can all of this really be cut off? If you really cut off everything, then are you still you? The voice sounded again, like the voice of the heavenly Tao, slowly transmitted into Qin Feiyang's mind. My persistence, Qin Feiyang murmured. In his chaotic mind, a ray of light gradually appeared. My persistence is to protect the people around me, to protect the common people of the world. I can walk all the way to where I am today, because of everyone's support, for example, the beings of the Black Tortoise world, they have always silently supported me, for example, Li Changhe, Feng Daji, they all stood in front of me, and were willing to give up their lives for me, all of this. I can't cut it off, yes. This is the real me, Qin Feiyang murmured. The scenes of the past constantly appeared in his mind, and his spirit became clearer and clearer. Killing does not only represent indifference and ruthlessness, everything has two sides. The law of killing is the same, it has another side, it can be benevolence, it can be reform. Just like the inner demons, although they are existences that cannot be tolerated by heaven and earth, they do not have to be killed. They can also be slowly reformed, that's right. This is the other side of the law of killing. Qin Feiyang became clearer and clearer, and the world in his heart also changed. The blood and corpses that filled the sky disappeared, leaving only him standing alone in the void. He swept his gaze over the void, and a smile gradually appeared on his face. At the same time, outside, Qin Feiyang's body fell into the sea, and like a corpse without consciousness, he floated into the distance with the surging sea. The sea beasts he encountered all looked at him in surprise. Boom! Suddenly, Qin Feiyang, who was motionless, suddenly erupted with a terrifying aura. The surrounding sea beasts were immediately frightened, and hurriedly turned and fled into the distance, suspiciously sizing up the scene. The aura was getting stronger and stronger. The sea within a radius of tens of millions of miles was boiling, and huge waves that covered the sky appeared and swept in all directions. At the same time, a blood-red aura surged into the sky, containing a monstrous killing intent. This was the law of killing. Clang! Accompanied by a loud sound, a blood-red giant sword appeared from the law of killing. Killing intent instantly covered the sky, causing the void to collapse and the sky to tremble. It was as though a peerless divine weapon had appeared. At the same time when the blood-red giant sword appeared, Qin Feiyang suddenly opened his eyes, and his aura directly soared to the sovereign realm. He succeeded. Elder Hua, Chu Yun, and the disciples of the demon palace looked at Qin Feiyang in the image and couldn't help but become excited. Needless to say, frenzy clenched his fists, and his eyes were filled with ecstasy. However, Elder Hai, the Grand Deacon, and even the Vice Leader had an extremely gloomy expression. But in comparison, the Vice Leader would still conceal it. Elder Hai did not conceal it at all, and his eyes were filled with anger and killing intent. He really comprehended it. This talent was too big of a threat to them, and they had to think of a way to get rid of it. Sea region. Qin Feiyang stood up and looked up at the blood-red giant sword in the sky, and his body suddenly erupted with a shocking killing intent. He could be a benevolent savior, but he could also be a demon king that caused people to tremble in fear. It's time to end this. He muttered to himself as he swallowed a life-divine pill. Scanning his surroundings, his gaze locked onto the battle between White Phoenix Divine Sword, Nie Xiang, and the ancient halberd. Then, he activated the space-time stride and disappeared into the horizon. Chapter 3254. In the distant battlefield. The White Phoenix Divine Sword was already in pieces, but it was still holding on and did not retreat. It tried its best to buy time for Qin Feiyang. Clang! With a loud sound, the heavenly halberd and Nie Xiang's esoteric divine skill joined forces and attacked the White Phoenix Divine Sword. At this moment, the White Phoenix Divine Sword also felt a fatal threat. However, it only hesitated for a moment before facing the heavenly halberd and the esoteric divine skill. With a loud crack, the White Phoenix Divine Sword finally reached its limit and broke into pieces. I'm going to destroy both your soul and body. Nie Xiang roared ferociously. He grabbed the heavenly halberd and slashed at the fragments of the White Phoenix Divine Sword. Qin Feiyang, I've already tried my best, the weapon spirit of the White Phoenix Divine Sword muttered and quietly waited for death. Boom! However, at this moment, a blood-red giant sword tore through the sky and attacked at lightning speed. Nie Xiang was shocked and hurriedly turned in the air. The heavenly halberd faced the blood-red giant sword. With a loud clang, the blood-red giant sword and the heavenly halberd collided. Nie Xiang immediately felt a terrifying force and was pushed back on the spot. What? This seems to be the fifth esoteric intent of the law of massacre? Could it be? Nie Xiang looked up into the distance. In the next instant, his pupils abruptly shrank because in his line of sight, there was a white figure walking over step by step in the air. Who else could it be but Qin Feiyang? He successfully broke through? Nie Xiang was in disbelief. Obviously. The heavenly halberd's weapon spirit said. Now, Qin Feiyang's aura was that of an initial sovereign. He was also extremely impressed. This young man was indeed not someone like Nie Xiang could compare to. I didn't persevere for so long in vain. The weapon spirit of the White Phoenix divine sword muttered. Once Qin Feiyang, who had mastered the strongest law, stepped into the initial sovereign realm, no one in the same realm would be his match. Nie Xiang, prepare yourself. Qin Feiyang glanced at the shattered White Phoenix divine sword and killing intent surged in his eyes. The fifth profound of the law of karma appeared, exuding a monstrous divine might. The five-colored divine light illuminated the heavens as it charged towards Nie Xiang. I don't believe you can comprehend the fifth profundity of the law of slaughter in such a short time. Nie Xiang roared furiously. The fifth profundity of the law of thunder and the law of sword appeared simultaneously and attacked the law of karma. Rumble. The scene was like three comets colliding, and a wave of destructive air immediately surged out. At the instant they collided, the laws of lightning and the fifth profundity of the laws of sword shattered into pieces, and they didn't even have the slightest ability to resist. So strong. Nie Xiang's eyes trembled. Was this the power of an ultimate law? They were both fifth profound meanings, but the gap between them was so huge. Right when Nie Xiang was shocked, the five-colored divine lotus was like a graceful bolt of lightning that arrived before Nie Xiang. Feeling the fatal danger, Nie Xiang shuddered and hurriedly raised his halberd to block in front of him. Clang! Nie Xiang was blasted flying once more. His body was covered in horrifying bloody scars. Qin Feiyang, show mercy to the heavenly halberd. Suddenly, White Phoenix divine sword's voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. Qin Feiyang looked at White Phoenix divine sword's weapon spirit suspiciously. When I went to save you initially, it was the one who deliberately let me go. Otherwise, with its strength, I wouldn't have been able to escape from it so easily. White Phoenix divine sword transmitted its voice. I see. Qin Feiyang came to a realization. It seemed like the heavenly halberd was indeed willing to follow him. Swoosh. Following that, Qin Feiyang looked at Nie Xiang with killing intent in his eyes. Damn it, damn it. Nie Xiang roared and activated a supreme-level heaven-defying support divine technique. He began to flee without looking back. Running? Qin Feiyang smiled coldly and raised his arm. With a flick of his finger, a blood-colored bolt of lightning shot out and charged over instantly. That's right. This was also formed by the kill formula. Looking at this blood-colored bolt of lightning, Qin Feiyang's eyes had a hint of joy. Although it was formed by a wisp of blood and its power was not comparable to the blood-colored longsword, the power of this blood-colored bolt of lightning was almost at the supreme level. In other words, his guess was correct. After comprehending the profound meaning of the laws, the four divine techniques would automatically increase by one level. Was this the six-word divine technique? It was indeed different. That's impossible. At the same time, Nie Xiang, who was fleeing, felt the blood-colored bolt of lightning coming towards him, and his face was full of disbelief. This seemed to be formed by a supreme-level heaven-defying divine technique. But the battle on Sky Cloud Island was so dangerous, and he didn't see him activate it. Could it be that when he broke through his cultivation, he also cultivated a supreme-level heaven-defying divine technique? Impossible. How could it be so easy to cultivate a supreme-level heaven-defying divine technique? Without thinking, Nie Xiang activated the supreme-level heaven-defying armor. With a clang, the blood-colored bolt of lightning struck Nie Xiang's back. Nie Xiang spat out another mouthful of blood, his face pale. His body also flew out. Supreme-level heaven-defying armor, Qin Feiyang coldly snorted. With a wave of his hand, the white phoenix divine sword was sent to the black tortoise world. Then, with the space-time step, he chased after Nie Xiang in a few steps. Because a person would not activate a supreme-level heaven-defying divine technique when they were flying out, Qin Feiyang could use the space-time step to catch up with Nie Xiang. This was a battle between sovereign realm experts. The slightest mistake could be fatal. Clang! As killing intent and blood-colored light emerged, a blood-colored longsword appeared, emitting a sharp light. Sure enough, the kill symbol formula had truly stepped into the supreme-level heaven-defying divine technique level, and it was even stronger than the average supreme-level heaven-defying divine technique. It seemed like the six-word divine technique could also be invincible in the same realm. Don't. Nie Xiang stabilized his body, and when he turned around, his soul almost left his body. He hurriedly blocked with his halberd again. Qin Feiyang coldly smiled, and the blood-colored longsword slashed down. With a loud clang, cracks appeared on the halberd. After fighting with the white phoenix divine sword for so long, the halberd's body had already suffered some damage. Now that the kill symbol formula had been upgraded to the supreme-level heaven-defying divine technique level, even the halberd could not withstand the power of the blood-colored longsword. Crack! Cracks appeared on the halberd's body, and it fell out of Nie Xiang's hand. Qin Feiyang did not care about the halberd, and once again slashed at Nie Xiang. A crack immediately appeared on the armor on Nie Xiang's body. Just as the crack appeared, Qin Feiyang slapped the hilt of his sword. The blood-red longsword immediately shot out like an arrow and entered Nie Xiang's Qi with a puff. Ah! Accompanied by a painful scream, Nie Xiang's momentum disappeared without a trace, and his Qi was destroyed. Even if he had a supreme-level heaven-defying divine technique, it was useless. It's over, Nie Xiang looked at his bleeding abdomen, and only despair remained in his eyes. If his Qi was still there, he still had hope of escaping. But now, his Qi was destroyed. Even if he had heaven-defying abilities, it was useless. Moreover, he himself did not have any heaven-defying abilities. I'll return to you the words you said to me before without missing a word. Despair. Roar. Make your final struggle. Qin Feiyang walked to Nie Xiang step by step and turned to look at him. Nie Xiang raised his head to look at Qin Feiyang, and he could not help but feel his scalp go numb. At such a critical moment, he could actually calm down and comprehend the fifth profundity of the law of slaughter. What kind of terrifying existence did he provoke? Suddenly, the armor on Nie Xiang's body emitted a dazzling divine light. Following closely, this supreme-level heaven-defying divine artifact took Nie Xiang and flew away. A divine artifact dares to act rashly. Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. The fifth profundity of the three laws instantly appeared. Coupled with the kill formula that had already evolved into a supreme-level heaven-defying divine art, it carried a monstrous aura and instantly drowned Nie Xiang. Crack! Accompanied by a series of loud sounds, the armor shattered continuously, and Nie Xiang was even more desperate. The destructive power of the three laws and the sharpness of the kill formula frenziedly strangled his physical body. Fresh blood stained the surroundings. No, don't kill me, spare my life, I'll be your slave, he wailed miserably, his heart filled with fear. I'm sorry, I'll apologize for someone like you being my slave. Qin Feiyang shook his head without any sympathy. He watched with his own eyes as Nie Xiang was strangled to death by the 3 laws and the blood-colored sword, his soul and body destroyed. The armor was still there. However, it had already been turned into fragments. But as long as it was given time, it would be repaired sooner or later. As for the Sky Piercer, although it still had the strength to fight, it did not make any more moves. First of all, it originally wanted to go to the Black Tortoise world. Secondly, Qin Feiyang's kill formula had already evolved into a supreme-level heaven-defying divine art. Coupled with the karma law and other profundities, even if it made a move, it would be useless. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and quickly sent the Sky Piercer and armor fragments into the ancient castle. He said, "Ancient castle, I'll have to trouble you to help them erase Old Hai's blood contract." At the same time, Sky Cloud Island. The various forces looked at the scene in the sky with shock on their faces. First, the madman comprehended the 5th profundity of the law of life and death at the brink of death. Now, Qin Feiyang comprehended the 5th profundity of the law of slaughter in a desperate situation. What kind of monsters were these two? As for the Blood Hall's core disciples, their previous arrogance had already disappeared. Looking at Qin Feiyang on the screen, their eyes were filled with fear. They still had the confidence to fight against Qin Feiyang, who had just become a sovereign. But now, Qin Feiyang's cultivation was the same as theirs. They no longer had the courage to do so. Just the law of karma alone was enough to make all the disciples here tremble in fear, not to mention the kill formula, a powerful trump card. The Grand Deacon took a deep breath and turned to look at Old Hai. He said in a deep voice, "Old Hai, quickly destroy those 2 divine artifacts." When Old Hai heard this, he immediately quivered. That's right. Qin Feiyang had let those 2 divine artifacts go. He must be preparing to subdue them. Supreme-level heaven-defying divine artifacts were comparable to peak sovereigns. Even if they were destroyed, they could not let Qin Feiyang benefit. Immediately. With a thought. However, at the same time, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. What's wrong? The Grand Deacon was surprised. Their blood contracts have been forcefully erased. Old Hai said gloomily. What? Who has this ability? The Grand Deacon was shocked. It must be that sovereign divine artifact. Old Hai's face sank. Jiang Feiyu, Jiang Feitian, Nie Xiang, the Scarlet Fire Armor, the Sky Piercer, the Armor, and the supreme-level heaven-defying divine artifact Flame Saber that was crushed by the little rabbit, 3 genius disciples, for divine artifacts, all of them had fallen in the hands of the madman and Qin Feiyang. Whether it was for him personally or for the entire Blood Hall, it was a great shame that could not be washed away. Trash, all of you are trash. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. Jiang Feitian and Jiang Feiyu were different, but this Nie Xiang, who gave him 2 supreme-level heaven-defying divine artifacts, couldn't even kill Qin Feiyang. What's the point of raising such trash? In fact, he didn't know that all of this was due to the Sky Piercer. If the Sky Piercer didn't go easy on him, Nie Xiang could definitely kill Qin Feiyang. However, he would never know about this. Chapter 3255. Law of Karma, Law of Thunder, Law of Slaughter, Law of War, Law of Light, Law of Wind, Law of Force, at the same time. Looking at Qin Feiyang who was returning, Yi Tian frowned and sent a voice transmission, "Dandan, if I remember correctly, Mo Yuanyuan seems to have grasped these 7 types of laws as well." The green-clothed woman was slightly taken aback. Thinking back, her expression froze. It was exactly the same. What was going on? How could there be such a coincidence in the world? A moment later. Under everyone's gaze, Qin Feiyang finally returned. Before killing Nie Xiang, he had already taken the divine life pill, so his injuries were basically healed. Swish! Madman took a step and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. He forcefully punched Qin Feiyang's chest and said angrily, "You bastard, I have poured out my heart and lungs for you. You actually deceived me?" "Deceived you?" Qin Feiyang was taken aback. "You dare say that you only comprehended the law of karma now?" Madman sneered. "All right." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. He inadvertently saw the scene above Sky Cloud Island and frowned. "You were watching the entire battle?" "Yes." Madman nodded. "If that's the case, why didn't you bring the Black Wing Emperor here?" Qin Feiyang said angrily. "Why would I bring him here? With the little rabbit here, why should I be afraid of the Blood Hall?" Madman looked at the Blood Hall with a mocking expression. "That's true." Qin Feiyang nodded. There was probably no one here more reliable than this little rabbit. Then he also looked at the people from the Blood Hall. Looking at the gloomy face of Old Hai, he couldn't help but laugh. "Senior Hai, this junior didn't disappoint you, right?" At this moment, the words senior and junior sounded so harsh. Old Hai clenched his fists tightly. He was about to go crazy. Boom! Suddenly, accompanied by a monstrous aura, the five-colored divine lotus appeared, followed by the appearance of the blood-red longsword. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the blood-red longsword and the five-colored divine lotus streaked across the sky like lightning, hovering above the island where the Blood Hall was located. "What is he doing?" Everyone was surprised. Old Hai, the Grand Deacon, and the core disciples of the Blood Hall also looked up at the five-colored lotus and sword. Those disciples were filled with fear. Old Hai and the Grand Deacon were. Qin Feiyang swept his eyes over the people of the Blood Hall, and finally looked at Old Hai and the head deacon. He said word by word, "I want to challenge all the disciples of the Blood Hall." "What?" Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang with dumbfounded expressions. Challenging all the disciples of the Blood Hall? Is this directly of blood? Old Hai and head deacon stared at Qin Feiyang and Madman. This was clearly an attempt to embarrass them. The disciples of the Blood Hall were also burning with rage. "You have broken through to the early stage of the ruler realm and grasped the law of karma. You are indeed very powerful. However, to challenge all of us by yourself, isn't that a little too much? What is it? Don't dare. Think about it. Jiang Feitian challenged Senior Marshal Brother Feng Zi and Nie Xiang challenged me. What are their cultivations? What are our cultivations? We still dare to accept the challenge. And now? All of you are at the early stage of the sovereign's level. There are over 100 of you, yet you don't dare to challenge me and my senior brother? Aren't you afraid that people will laugh at you if word of this gets out?" Qin Feiyang sneered. Hearing this, the group of disciples was immediately enraged. "Let's fight. Do you think I'm afraid of you? I don't believe that with so many of us, we can't beat the two of you. Old Hai, Senior Deacon, we can't tolerate this humiliation. Please give us the order, we will slaughter them all." The group of people roared furiously. "Yes, that's right. We can't let others look down on us. Of course, it is also very dangerous to fight with so many of you, so we can't fight for nothing. Senior Hai, do you dare to bet again? Use the Mermaid Emperor and White-Winged Emperor as the stakes." Qin Feiyang's gaze locked onto Old Hai. His gaze was aggressive. Old Hai remained silent. Although it seemed that the Blood Hall had a higher chance of winning, facing Qin Feiyang and Nie Xiang, he really didn't have much confidence. Especially now that Qin Feiyang and Madman had joined forces. Although Madman's cultivation was only at the early stage of the ruler realm, it was hard to guarantee that he didn't have other methods. It would be fine if they won, but if they still lost to the two of them, it would undoubtedly be an even greater humiliation for the Blood Hall. Most importantly, if the two of them won, they would lose the Mermaid Emperor and White-Winged Emperor. Then, it would be almost impossible to deal with Qin Feiyang and Madman in the future. Because without the key chips, the two of them wouldn't pay attention to them at all. The chief deacon transmitted his voice, "Old Hai, calm down. After all, the hall master has already said that this is the last time." He was deeply afraid that Old Hai would agree to Qin Feiyang and Madman's bet on impulse. "I know, I don't need you to remind me." Old Hai glared at the chief deacon and looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman. "Don't be complacent too early. The good show is still behind. Let's go." As his voice fell, he activated the space-time law, and a space-time transmission channel immediately appeared in front of them. All the forces looked at the Blood Hall in surprise. What's going on? They left just like that? Qin Feiyang and Madman couldn't help but frown. "Old Dog Hai, is this all your Blood Hall can do? 3 genius disciples and 4 heaven-defying treasures have fallen in our hands. Can you bear it?" Madman shouted angrily. "Bastard, shut up." A core disciple of the Blood Hall roared. "Trash, all of you are trash. The dignified overlord of the Western continent actually doesn't dare to accept the challenge of 2 brats like us. In the future, you might as well change your name to Tortoise Hall instead." Madman's unbridled mockery and ridicule made the core disciples of the Blood Hall go crazy. "Let's go." Old Hai shouted coldly and took the lead to step into the space-time crack. Those core disciples glared hatefully at Qin Feiyang and Qin Yu before following them inside. Finally, it was the chief deacon's turn. Before entering the space-time crack, the chief deacon looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman and said, "I'll kindly give you a word of advice. It's understandable that you're young and impetuous, but if you go too far, you have to be careful lest you suffer a setback. Thank you for your warning. I'll also give you a word of advice. Sometimes, it's better to do more good deeds and accumulate merit, lest one day you provoke the wrath of both men and gods. If we don't make a move, the heavens will deal with you first." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Heavens," the chief deacon looked at the sky, and a trace of mockery flashed in his eyes. This trace of mockery was profound. Then, he stepped into the space-time crack without looking back. They really left? Then, is the exchange still continuing? The people of the various factions looked at each other. The Blood Hall has already left. Is there a need to continue? Let's go. We should also return home. The heads of the Sky Hall and Deities Hall shook their heads. They glanced at Qin Feiyang and Madman before opening the space-time passage and leaving with their disciples. Soon, only the people of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Demonic Hall remained. Qin Feiyang and Madman glanced at the 3 empty islands and let out a long sigh. Then, they flew toward Sky Cloud Island. Although the Blood Hall didn't accept the challenge, they had rescued the Black Wing Emperor and the Sword Emperor. This trip was worth it. Moreover, Madman had comprehended the 5th profundity of the Law of Death and stepped into the initial stage of the Dominator realm. Qin Feiyang had comprehended the 5th profundity of the Law of Slaughter and stepped into the initial stage of the Dominator realm. He had also obtained 4 heaven-defying divine artifacts. "We've made you suffer." Qin Feiyang and Madman landed in front of the Black Wing Emperor and cut off the bracelet on his hand. They then took out a Divine Essence C pill and handed it to the Black Wing Emperor. "What's this little bit of suffering? You guys, on the other hand, have really worked hard. Fortunately, you guys are fine. Otherwise, I would feel guilty for the rest of my life." The Black Wing Emperor's face was filled with self-blame. "If you say that, I'll feel even worse. If you scold me, I'll feel better." Qin Feiyang lowered his head. If he hadn't sent the four of them to guard the four seas, how could they have been kidnapped by the ice dragon? The Black Wing Emperor looked at Qin Feiyang and then at Madman. He smiled and said, "Then, let's not blame ourselves. It's not easy to reunite. We should all be happy." "Happy," Qin Feiyang muttered. The Mermaid Emperor and White Wing Emperor were still in the hands of the Blood Hall. How could they be happy? Sigh. After sighing inwardly, Qin Feiyang looked up at the Black Wing Emperor and said with a smile, "You can go to the Black Tortoise world to recuperate first." "Okay." The Black Wing Emperor nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent the Black Wing Emperor to the Black Tortoise world. He then looked at Little Rabbit and cupped his hands. "Thank you, Uncle Rabbit." "What are you thanking me for?" "This is the result of your hard work." Little Rabbit waved her paws and said, "However, this blood hall is really boring." They stopped playing on the first day of the conference. Actually, it's also expected. Old Qin has reached the initial stage of the ruler realm and has the law of karma as well as the kill symbol art. The true elite disciples of the blood hall haven't come yet. Therefore, no one can fight with him now. If this continues, the blood hall will only lose more face. Besides, they don't dare to use the Mermaid Emperor and White Wing Emperor as bargaining chips to gamble with us. Madman smiled coldly. True elite disciples? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Previously, I asked Elder Hua. He said that the four super forces actually have disciples who grasped the strongest law. It's just that they didn't bring them to this conference. Madman said. Is that so? Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. However, even if they brought them here, with your means, there's nothing to be afraid of. Madman chuckled. It's hard to say. However, of course, we aren't afraid, right? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Madman raised his head and laughed. Not to mention the older generation, he really wasn't afraid of anyone in the younger generation. Lord Ruler, the wine you want is ready. Why don't you take a look and see if you're satisfied? At this moment, Pai Lupi's voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. So fast? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Is it fast? It has been more than 3,000 years. Pai Lupi replied. 3,000 years? Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment before slapping his head. The Black Tortoise world's time array was 1,000 years per day. When he ordered Pai Lupi and Madman to arrange this matter, it was on the day they arrived at Sky Cloud Island. 3 days had passed in the outside world. Today was the 4th day, so 3,000 years had passed in the Black Tortoise world. Chapter 3256. A divine brew that took more than 3,000 years to brew, it should be amazing. Qin Feiyang, Frenzy, we are also preparing to go back. Hurry up. At this moment, Elder Hua's voice sounded. Go back? Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. That's right. Now that he was a disciple of the Demon Palace, he had to go back. Old Qin, to be honest, I don't want to go to the Demon Palace. Frenzy suddenly spoke. You don't want to go? Qin Feiyang frowned. He had promised the Demon Palace Hall Master that he would enter the Demon Palace. What I mean is that we are still disciples of the Demon Palace, but we won't go there for the time being. Frenzy said. Then where are we going? Qin Feiyang was doubtful. Now, you have already stepped into the initial stage of the Dominator realm, and I have also broken through to the initial stage of the Dominator realm. With those supreme-grade heaven-defying artifacts, I think that even if we go to the Western continent, we should be able to protect ourselves. Why don't we go directly to the Western continent? Frenzy suggested. Go directly to the Western continent, Qin Feiyang muttered. No, you guys agreed to help me investigate the whereabouts of the Alliance leader and my parents. If we go to the Western continent now, how are we going to investigate? At this moment, Fire Dragon, who was lying on Frenzy's shoulder, looked at the two of them and said. Before Qin Feiyang and Nia Xiang fought, the Fire Dragon, Black Dragon, and Fire Luan moved to the side and lay on Frenzy's shoulder. Frenzy looked at the Fire Dragon and frowned slightly. We are brothers, you can't go back on your words. Fire Dragon was extremely anxious. Frenzy immediately rubbed his forehead with an irritated expression. Qin Feiyang glanced at the Fire Dragon and then looked at the Rogue Cultivator Alliance's side. Coincidentally, the Vice Alliance leader also looked in his direction. In the Vice Alliance leader's eyes, Qin Feiyang saw a trace of struggle and hesitation, as well as a trace of relief. This gaze, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He looked at Madman, the Fire Dragon, and the other two beasts and said, "Wait for me here." After saying that, he looked at the little rabbit again and said with a smile, "Uncle Rabbit, don't go yet. I'll give you a surprise later." Surprise? The little rabbit was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and turned to Elder Hua. He didn't try to lower his voice as he said with a smile, "Elder Hua, you can go back first." Elder Hua was stunned. On the other side, the Vice Alliance Master's eyes flashed. Although he didn't look at Qin Feiyang, he pricked up his ears and carefully listened to Qin Feiyang's next words. "I want to stay in the Heavenly Cloud Sea for now." Qin Feiyang smiled. Stay in Heavenly Cloud Sea? Elder Hua and Chu Yun looked at each other and asked in puzzlement, "Why are you staying in the Heavenly Cloud Ocean?" "Of course it's to gain experience." Qin Feiyang smiled. At the same time, he transmitted his voice, "This matter might not be over yet. I need your help." When the two heard this, their hearts trembled. Elder Hua glanced at the Vice Alliance Master and nodded with a smile, "All right then, you can stay here to gain experience, but you must pay attention to your safety." "We will." Qin Feiyang nodded. Elder Hua smiled and looked at Chu Yun. "Then let's go." Chu Yun waved her hand, and a space-time teleportation channel immediately appeared. "Let's go." With this order, the core disciples of the Demon Hall immediately rushed towards the space-time teleportation channel. Soon, only Qin Feiyang, Yi Tian, and the woman in green were left here. The Hall of Famers glanced at the disappearing space-time teleportation channel and smiled at the Vice Alliance Master. "Then let's go back too." "Yes." The Vice Alliance Master nodded. Clang! The Hall of Famers waved her hand and opened a space-time teleportation divine artifact. Then, she looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "Our Rogue Cultivator Alliance welcomes you back at any time." "Thank you." Qin Feiyang bowed and said gratefully. Then, the Hall of Famers, the Great Elder, and the Vice Alliance Master led a group of disciples into the space-time teleportation channel. Seeing this, Yi Tian and the woman in green were about to fly towards the Vice Alliance Master and the others. However, at this time, Qin Feiyang reached out to stop them. "What?" Yi Tian was suspicious. Qin Feiyang smiled but did not say anything. After watching the people from the Rogue Cultivator Alliance leave, Yi Tian frowned and said, "Qin Feiyang, what do you mean by this? You want us to change our appearances just to watch your performance?" "I don't think he just wants us to watch his performance. He's also going to kidnap us." The woman in green also had a displeased look on her face. "Kidnap you?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed, "If I really wanted to kidnap you, would you still be able to stand here so easily? Then why are you doing this?" Yi Tian was suspicious. "Haven't you ever thought about why the Hall of Famers is so nice to us? And why is my power of law exactly the same as Mo Yuanyuan's?" Qin Feiyang said. The two of them looked at each other. Of course, they had thought about it, but they didn't dare to say anything without proof. That's right, I am Mo Yuanyuan, and senior brother Crazy is Mo Wuhui. Qin Feiyang said. You guys, the woman in green looked at the two of them in shock. You don't have to show such an expression. Before you guys arrived, we had already admitted our identities in public, so your grandfather, the Hall of Famers, and the Vice Alliance Master already know. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. What exactly do you want to do? Yi Tian raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. He suddenly raised his arm and slapped the back of the woman's head, causing her to faint. What are you doing? Yi Tian supported the woman in green and looked at Qin Feiyang angrily. Do you still remember what I told you before? Qin Feiyang didn't explain and asked. What did you say? Yi Tian frowned. Your grandfather colluded with Blood Hall. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Yi Tian's pupils shrank. I sneaked into the Rogue Cultivator Alliance to investigate this matter, and now I have the results. Qin Feiyang sighed. Looking at Qin Feiyang's expression, Yi Tian had an uneasy premonition. Yes. They are indeed colluding. Qin Feiyang secretly said. This is impossible, I don't believe it. Yi Tian shook his head. I know you will definitely believe my words, but I already have evidence in my hands. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. What evidence? Let me see. Yi Tian secretly said. Don't worry, when the time is up, you will naturally see it. Please believe me, if I really wanted to harm you, with my means, would have already made you disappear from the world in the Hall of the Exalted. Qin Feiyang smiled. Yi Tian fell silent. Indeed. Back then in the Hall of the Exalted, he trusted Qin Feiyang very much and didn't have any vigilance. Therefore, if Qin Feiyang wanted to harm him, it would be easy and wouldn't wait until now. Let's go. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Yi Tian carried the woman in green and followed Qin Feiyang to Sky Cloud Island. At the same time, the little rabbit waved its claws and the 5 floating islands immediately sank to the bottom of the sea and disappeared. Boy, where's the surprise? When Qin Feiyang landed on the island, the little rabbit immediately asked curiously. Don't worry. Qin Feiyang chuckled and appeared in the Devil's Land with Madman, Yi Tian, the woman in green, and the fire dragon. This is? Yi Tian looked surprised. This is my Black Tortoise realm, an independent small world. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. An independent small world? Yi Tian's eyes were dull. Lord Ruler, we are here. Pai Lupi's voice came from below. Qin Feiyang looked down and saw Pai Lupi and Theta Wang standing in the medicine field below, waving at him. Qin Feiyang smiled, landed in front of the two, and asked, Where's the wine? Below. Pai Lupi pointed to the ground. Below? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Pai Lupi nodded. Qin Feiyang released his divine sense and sank into the ground. He immediately saw 100 wine jars piled up between the spirit vein and the crystal vein. Each of the wine jars was made of peerless jade. Under the nourishment of the spirit vein and the crystal vein, they became crystal clear and sparkling. With a thought, a wine jar immediately appeared in front of Qin Feiyang. This is a method that those wine masters jointly researched. Placing the wine between the spirit vein and the crystal vein can greatly improve the quality of the wine. Especially in the Devil's Land, the number of spirit veins and crystal veins and the quality are far superior to other places, so the effect is better. Moreover, the materials used to brew this wine are basically aged flowers and fruits, and a lot of herbs are added. These herbs are all found in this medicine field. You also know that most of the herbs here are more than 100 million years old, and the extracted essence is purer. Pai Lupi and Theta Wang explained one by one. Stop talking. Qin Feiyang interrupted the two and said with a smile, I don't know anything about wine brewing. No matter how much you explain, I don't understand. Let me see the result. Then open it quickly, we are also looking forward to it. Pai Lupi and Theta Wang stared at the wine jar. Is this the wine you found someone to brew? Frenzy ran down and looked at the wine jar suspiciously. Yes. The two nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and opened the sealed lid. A translucent dragon shadow immediately rushed out of the wine jar. What is that? Qin Feiyang was shocked. Only after taking a closer look did he realize that the dragon shadow was formed by the wine. Wine turned into a dragon? It was the first time he had seen such a phenomenon. Wine turned into a dragon. Lord Ruler, this is the phenomenon of the birth of the divine wine. But Pai Lupi and Theta Wang were excited. Qin Feiyang was stunned. We didn't know at first, but we heard from the wine masters that the phenomenon of the divine wine is the wine turning into a dragon. In other words, without this phenomenon, no matter how good the wine is, it can't be called a divine wine. Pai Lupi explained. So it's like that. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. Then they smelled a rich wine aroma that they had never smelled before. Not only did the wine smell have a bit of the fragrance of flowers, it also had a bit of the fragrance of fruits. Just by smelling it, they could not help but be intoxicated. What wine is this? Yi Tian, the fire dragon, and the other two beasts smelled the wine and ran down one after another. It smells so good. This emperor has drunk a lot of good wine, but none of them can compare to this wine. The black dragon and the fire Luan lay next to the wine jar and sniffed hard, drooling. Not to mention these two drunkards, even Qin Feiyang, who never liked to drink, couldn't help but salivate when he smelled the wine fragrance. Looking at the wine in the wine jar, it was like a nectar, emitting a hazy crystal light. No, this emperor can't help it. The black dragon roared, and its whole head directly burrowed into the wine jar, gulping down the wine. Now, it was 1/2 meter long, and its little head was about the size of a small egg. The wine jar was comparable to a wash basin, so not to mention its little head, even its whole body could fit in. Chapter 3257. Old Black, don't finish it. Leave some for me. Seeing this, Fire Luan hurriedly roared. It also stuck its little head into the wine jar and drank wildly. Me too. The fire dragon also immediately went in. Not long after, the whole jar of wine was drunk by the three beasts. Then they lay next to the wine jar, their faces full of intoxication. It's finished? Madman looked at the empty jar and his face suddenly turned black. I haven't tasted it yet, can't you leave a mouthful? Yi Tian also swallowed his saliva. He was not a person who liked to drink, but at this moment, he couldn't help but salivate. Wine aroma, where did this wine come from, suddenly? Accompanied by a low voice, the five-clawed golden dragon also followed the wine aroma to find it. When he walked to the side of Qin Feiyang and the others and saw the empty wine jar, he was stunned. Then, he leaned forward and sniffed it. His eyes lit up as he nodded and said, "This is the smell. Another drunkard is here." The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. Qin Feiyang, where did this wine come from? Is there more? The five-clawed golden dragon immediately looked up at Qin Feiyang and asked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. With a thought, for more wine jars came out from the ground. The five-clawed golden dragon immediately rushed forward and opened the sealed lid. Another dragon shadow formed by the smell of alcohol rushed out from inside. This is Wine Chi Dragon. A real divine wine. The five-clawed golden dragon suddenly became excited. Holding the wine jar, it raised its head and drank wildly. Awesome! It had never tasted such delicious wine. What immortal wine, heavenly mountain dew, they were all trash. Madman was not careless. He also held a wine jar and tasted it. Brother Yi, do you want to try it too? Qin Feiyang opened a wine jar and looked at Yi Tian with a smile. All right, give it a try. Yi Tian glanced at Qin Feiyang and gently put down the green-robed woman. Then, he took out a teacup from his interspatial ring and used it as a wine cup. After taking a sip, an intoxicated look appeared on his face. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang curiously took out a teacup and used it as a wine glass. Because he and Yi Tian were both tea lovers, they would definitely carry teacups with them, but wine cups were almost impossible to find. After tasting it, he felt as if he was floating in the air. Not bad indeed. Even though he didn't drink, he couldn't help but want to drink a few more mouthfuls. At this moment, the black dragon and the other two beasts glanced at the unopened jar of wine and swallowed their saliva. That's enough. Don't be too greedy. We've already drunk a jar. Qin Feiyang glared at the three beasts. This isn't fair. That's right. Look at the five-clawed golden dragon and frenzied one jar each. Even you and Yi Tian share one jar, but the three of us only drink one jar. Isn't this differential treatment? No matter what, we should each have a jar like frenzied one and the others, right? The three beasts looked at Qin Feiyang discontentedly. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. He glanced at the wine jar in front of him and said to Yi Tian, Brother Yi, why don't you give them some? Yi Tian glanced at the three beasts, shook his head and smiled, Take it, I'll just taste it. Thank you. The three beasts immediately got up and rushed to the wine jar. Qin Feiyang put away the teacup and looked at Pai Lupi and said, Arrange a place for Brother Yi and the others to stay. Just in the Devil's Land? The two asked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Got it. The two responded, then looked at the wine jar in everyone's hands and asked, Are you satisfied with this wine? Very satisfied. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Hearing this, the two couldn't help but smile at each other. Finally, they completed their task perfectly. Then, Lord Sovereign, why don't you give this wine a name? Since it's a divine brew, it must have a name. The two laughed. Name? Qin Feiyang was stunned, then shook his head, The name is not important, you can just pick one. How about this? This wine is produced in the Devil's Land, we'll call it the Devil's Wine. Frenzied one interjected. Devil's Wine? Pai Lupi and Yi Tian's lips twitched hearing this. Wasn't this a little too casual? Not to mention, this was a divine brew, how could they call it the Devil's Wine? In my opinion, this wine should be called the Black Tortoise Divine Brew, because only our Black Tortoise world has it. The five-clawed golden dragon pondered for a moment and said. Black Tortoise Divine Brew? Pai Lupi and Yi Tian were stunned. This name sounded pretty good, but it still lacked a little flavor. Alright, there's no need to fuss over a name, let's call it the Black Tortoise Divine Brew. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, then looked at Pai Lupi and Theta Wang, saying, Come over here. The two followed Qin Feiyang to the side. Qin Feiyang turned to look at the two of them, saying in a low voice, You've worked hard this time, but I don't know what reward I should give you. After all, the door to your potential has been opened, you have everything you need. It's fine. You've been so good to us, if we want to reward you for such a small matter, are we still human? The two of them quickly waved their hands. Qin Feiyang smiled, In short, I'm thankful. Also, the contribution of those master brewers cannot be forgotten. Find some time to give them some pills that can open the door to their potential. Okay. The two of them nodded, then asked, then, should we continue to brew the black tortoise divine brew? Of course. Although I don't like to drink, look at these few drunkards. Is the 100 jars enough for them? Qin Feiyang pointed at the 5-clawed golden dragon, the madman, and the fire dragon. That's true. The two of them looked at the madman and the others and smiled bitterly. Of course, if possible, we can ask those master brewers to improve the quality of the black tortoise divine brew. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. This problem should be easy to solve. Although we don't know how to brew wine, we still know that wine tastes better the longer it's stored. Look, it's only been 3,000 years since we put the wine underground. If it's this good in 3,000 years, 300,000 years, or even 3 million years, the quality will definitely increase by several levels. Pai Lupi and Theta Wang said. In any case, it's up to you. You can take any of the herbs in the herb field. However, don't just take them and not cultivate them. After all, no matter how many herbs there will be a day when they are used up. Qin Feiyang said. We know this, don't worry. The two of them smiled faintly. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded and hugged the unopened black tortoise divine brew. He looked at the madman and smiled, Senior brother, let's go and give that little rabbit a surprise. The madman grinned and walked to Qin Feiyang's side with the unfinished wine jar. Whoosh! Immediately, the two of them disappeared from the black tortoise world. Young Master Yi Tian, please follow us. Pai Lupi and Theta Wang also walked to Yi Tian and smiled. Okay. Yi Tian carried the green-clothed girl and followed Pai Lupi and Theta Wang to the courtyard beside the ancient castle. He looked around. Is this the legendary black tortoise world? Others thought that it was just a spatial divine object, but they didn't know that it was an independent world. Outside. Because of the time array, only a moment had passed outside. When Qin Feiyang and the madman appeared, the smell of wine entered the little rabbit's nose. The little rabbit looked at the wine jar in the madman's hand in surprise. Hee. The madman smiled proudly and placed the wine jar in front of the little rabbit. Uncle Rabbit, smell it. The little rabbit sniffed hard and its eyes couldn't help but shine. This is mine. Seeing that the little rabbit was about to snatch it, the madman quickly took a few steps back and smiled sinisterly. Stinky brat, such a good wine, you actually didn't give it to Uncle Rabbit. Are you looking for death? The little rabbit suddenly stood up and threw the wine jar in its hand and angrily charged at the madman. Don't. The madman quickly waved his hand and smiled flatteringly. How could we forget Uncle Rabbit? Didn't we already send it to you? The madman patted the wine jar in Qin Feiyang's hand. The little rabbit's eyes turned and landed on the wine jar in Qin Feiyang's hand. Qin Feiyang smiled and offered the wine jar with both hands. This wine is the same as your wine? The little rabbit glanced at the two wine jars and asked the madman. I guarantee it's the same. If it's not, just kill me. I won't fight back. The madman said. If Uncle Rabbit really wants to kill you, do you have a chance to fight back? The little rabbit rolled its eyes and impatiently snatched the wine jar in Qin Feiyang's hand. Then, with a wave of its little paw, the lid was opened and a dragon roared out. Wine-chi dragon. The little rabbit's eyes trembled. Those who loved to drink knew that in many big restaurants, there were all kinds of divine wine, but none of them were real divine wine. It was just a gimmick. And the wine in front of them was without a doubt a real divine wine. Immediately after, the little rabbit hugged the wine jar and took a sip. Refreshing. The taste of this wine is simply amazing. Kid, what wine is this? It looked at Qin Feiyang and asked. Black tortoise divine wine. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Black tortoise divine wine, The little rabbit pondered for a moment and said suspiciously, Uncle Rabbit has never heard of this divine wine in the sky cloud realm? Could it be that you brought it from the lower realm? Bastard, why didn't you give it to Uncle Rabbit last time? Do you think Uncle Rabbit is a fool? Don't be angry. This black tortoise divine wine was specially brewed for you. It has just been successfully brewed. Isn't that right? The moment it was brewed, I took it out for you to taste. Am I not good enough for you? Qin Feiyang said with grievance. So it's like this. Then Uncle Rabbit has wronged you. The little rabbit smiled embarrassedly. Uncle Rabbit, what do you think of this black tortoise divine wine? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. It's the best in the world. How much do you have? Uncle Rabbit will take as much as you have. If you need any help in the future, just say the word and Uncle Rabbit will not refuse. The little rabbit said solemnly. Qin Feiyang and the madman looked at each other and smiled. They were waiting for this sentence. Chapter 32:58. The madman was overjoyed, but on the surface, he angrily said, What are you talking about? You're looking down on us. We're brothers, and since we're brothers, of course we have to share everything. Yes, yes, yes. It's Uncle Rabbit's fault, you are too polite. The little rabbit nodded repeatedly. That's right. Madman twisted the wine jug and smiled mischievously. Come, come, let's have a drink. Let's have a drink, let's have a drink. The little rabbit laughed and the two clinked their wine jugs before raising their heads to drink. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. Drinking wine was like drinking water, wasn't it uncomfortable? After the little rabbit finished drinking, it licked its lips and asked Qin Feiyang, Aren't you going to drink? I just tasted it. Qin Feiyang smiled. You just want to taste this divine brew? I can tell with one look that you are boring. This little madman is more to Uncle Rabbit's taste. The little rabbit shook its head and looked at Madman with a grin. Little madman, let's have another drink. Okay. Madman chuckled and looked at Qin Feiyang proudly, as if saying, Did you see that? Drinking wine is the shortcut to getting close. One man and one rabbit drank happily, but soon the wine jug was empty. You haven't answered Uncle Rabbit's question directly, right? How much of this black tortoise divine brew is left? The little rabbit looked at the wine jug. There was only a little left. There is definitely more, Qin Feiyang nodded, but his expression became a little awkward. What? The little rabbit looked at him suspiciously. I said earlier that this was just brewed, and it's a new recipe, a new variety. You love to drink so much, so you must know that to brew such a divine brew, not only does it take time, it also takes a long time. So, I don't have much here, a total of 10 jugs. Now that the two of you have drunk 1 jug each, there are only 8 left. There was a good saying, the rarer something is, the more valuable it is. If he took out 100 jugs at once, what value would it have? So little. The little rabbit looked disappointed. It can't be helped. After all, it's a divine brew. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. That makes sense. It's not easy to brew divine wine. All right, give the remaining 8 jars to Uncle Rabbit. Uncle Rabbit will drink it sparingly. When these 8 jars are finished, I reckon you will have brewed the next batch. Little Rabbit said. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded without hesitation, taking out 8 jugs of black tortoise divine brew and placing them in front of the little rabbit. These are all priceless treasures. The little rabbit's eyes lit up. The madman rolled his eyes and said with a chuckle, Lord Rabbit, you look so happy today. Why don't we become sworn brothers? Become sworn brothers? The little rabbit was taken aback. Qin Feiyang also had a look of astonishment on his face. This guy really knew how to cause trouble. He even brought up the topic of becoming sworn brothers. That's right. The madman moved closer to the little rabbit's ear and said in a low voice, Lord Rabbit, you don't know how stingy old Chin is. Normally, he won't even be willing to pluck a single strand of hair. But if we become sworn brothers, then when you ask him for black tortoise divine brew in the future, won't he be embarrassed to not give it to you? So it's like that. The little rabbit suddenly understood. He sized up Qin Feiyang seriously and then said suspiciously, that's not right. Didn't he give me so much immortal wine last time? He had no choice last time. If he didn't give it to you, would you have let him go? Besides, can the immortal wine compare to this black tortoise divine brew? The madman smiled slyly. That's true. The little rabbit nodded. What are you guys mumbling about? Qin Feiyang looked at them suspiciously. Nothing, nothing. The madman waved his hand and laughed. Lord Rabbit, what do you think of my idea? Not bad. The little rabbit thought about it and nodded with a laugh. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, then, Qin Feiyang, let's swear a blood oath today and become sworn brothers. What the hell? Qin Feiyang was stunned. It actually agreed? What did the madman say to it? What? You're not willing? The little rabbit frowned. No, no, it's my honor. Qin Feiyang quickly waved his hand. Then it's settled. The little rabbit waved its paw and opened a jar of black tortoise divine brew. Then, it cut its paw and dripped a drop of blood in. The madman looked at Qin Feiyang who was still standing there and secretly said, hurry up. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Why did he feel that it was a little childish? However, he still cut his wrist and dripped some blood in the wine. Then let's start now. Today, the three of us swear a blood oath and become sworn brothers. From now on, we will rely on each other in life and death, rely on each other in fortune and misfortune, and support each other in adversity. We don't ask to be born in the same year and month, but we ask to die in the same year and month. The madman knelt on the ground and roared at the sky. You're really enthusiastic. Qin Feiyang was speechless. He did as he was told and recited it once. I say, this. Relying on each other in life and death, relying on each other in fortune and misfortune, there's no problem. However, we don't ask to be born in the same year and month, but we ask to die in the same year and month. Isn't this Lord Rabbit a little at a disadvantage? The little rabbit looked at the two of them. What disadvantage do you have? The two of us are younger than you. The real disadvantage is us. The madman pouted. Come on, with Lord Rabbit's strength and status, who dares to touch Lord Rabbit? I'm not bragging. It's hard for Lord Rabbit to die even if I want to. But the two of you, with your little cultivation, you might suddenly die one day. The little rabbit coldly snorted. Are you interested? You still say old Qin is boring. I think you're the boring one. Moreover, with our talents, being your brothers wouldn't be a disgrace to you, would it? The madman said angrily. Your talent. The little rabbit pondered for a moment and nodded. It's indeed not a disgrace to Lord Rabbit. All right, let's swear a blood oath. Relying on each other in life and death, relying on each other in fortune and misfortune, supporting each other in fortune and misfortune. We don't ask to be born in the same year and month, but we ask to die in the same year and month. That's more like it. Let us finish this divine wine and we'll be brothers from now on. The madman laughed and picked up the wine jar. Just as he was about to put it to his mouth, he suddenly grinned and handed it to the little rabbit. He chuckled. Big brother, you first. At least you still know the rules. The little rabbit rolled its eyes at him and took the wine jar and drank it. From the looks of it, it was planning to finish it in one go. The madman hurriedly shouted, Big brother, leave some for us. The little rabbit turned a deaf ear. When there was only a little left, it threw the wine jar to the madman in satisfaction. Damn, this isn't even enough to fill the gaps between our teeth. The madman took the wine jar and saw that there was only one mouthful left. His face was gloomy. If you don't want to drink, give it back to Lord Rabbit. The little rabbit raised its paw and was about to snatch it back. The madman hurriedly took 2 steps back and drank the rest. Then he threw it to Qin Feiyang. There's still a little left, don't waste it. Qin Feiyang took the wine jar with a bitter smile on his face. There really was only a little left, probably only 2 or 3 drops. All right. This saved him a lot of trouble. He raised his head and waited for a long time before the 2 or 3 drops fell into his mouth. Now we're brothers. The madman chuckled and looked at the little rabbit. Without a doubt, you're definitely the big brother. And I'm much older than old Qin, so I'll be the second. Old Qin, you're the youngest, so you'll be the third. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded. Big brother, since we're sworn brothers, shouldn't you prepare some gifts for us 2 brothers? The madman started to take advantage of them. The little rabbit was stunned and looked at the madman strangely. Why do I feel like I've been tricked by you? Big brother, what are you saying? We're brothers and we're sincere. Why would we trick you? Look, although the 2 of us are quite talented, our current cultivation is too weak. What if we get beaten up one day? Wouldn't that be a disgrace to you, big brother? So, what I mean is, give us a few divine items for us to protect ourselves. Don't worry, we'll work hard and not embarrass you. Madman first had a sad and melancholy look, then he patted his chest as if he was making a solemn vow. Now, there was only one word to describe him: I can't help but feel pity for him. That's true. It doesn't matter if you get beaten up, but Uncle Rabbit can't afford to lose face. The little rabbit nodded. That's right. We won't be greedy, just give us 100 or so supreme divine items. The madman chuckled. When Qin Feiyang heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched. 100 or so supreme divine items? This guy actually dared to ask. Black lines appeared on the little rabbit's forehead. This bastard brat, he really wanted to slap him. He said indifferently, not to mention 100 or so, even if it's just 1, Uncle Rabbit won't give it to you. Big brother, you can't be like this, we're brothers. The madman immediately howled with a sad face. Stop, stop. The little rabbit hurriedly waved his paw and said angrily, Can you let me finish? The madman was slightly stunned and nodded. Okay. 1 or 2 supreme divine items are enough. Too many won't be of any use. After all, the main point of the ruler realm is the comprehension of the laws. The little rabbit said. Big brother, are you planning to give us a few inheritance of the power of laws? The madman looked at the little rabbit in surprise. Before the little rabbit could speak, he said with snot and tears, You're indeed my biological brother, so generous. Big brother, thank you, thank you. Scram. The little rabbit's face was dark as he slapped with his paw. The madman immediately screamed and flew out like a kite with a broken string. Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly. Since when did this little lunatic become so extreme? I realize that I've really been dragged onto the pirate ship by you guys. The little rabbit glanced at Qin Feiyang in anger. Cough, cough. Big brother, even if it's a pirate ship, you've already boarded it. It's easy to get on the ship, but it's hard to get off. Qin Feiyang smiled. All right, it's me, Uncle Rabbit, who was too naive to get into trouble with you too. The little rabbit sighed helplessly. At this time, the madman ran back and chuckled. Big brother, you don't have to blame yourself. Hitting is flirting and scolding is love. If you hit me, it means that you love me. Where did you see me blaming myself? The little rabbit's veins suddenly bulged as he roared angrily. Love you? Can you be more mushy? Chapter 32:59. Big brother, don't hide it. We won't laugh at you. Brothers should love each other. Madman was like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. Little Rabbit was speechless. Just how stupid was he to become sworn brothers with this brat? Enough. The little rabbit sighed helplessly. She looked at the two of them and said, "You have to rely on your own power of laws. Outsiders can't help you. As for the supreme level heaven-defying divine item, although I won't give it to you, I can upgrade your original legendary level heaven-defying divine arts to supreme level heaven-defying divine arts." Really? Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. In fact, doing this was no different from giving them a supreme level heaven-defying divine art. There's no need to get so many techniques. Your space-time steps, Little Rabbit looked at Madman and said, and your specter ghost steps, they're actually quite strong. Since Big Brother has already said so, that's fine. However, can you help us upgrade the other deity arts to supreme grade? Madman's eyes shone. If he could upgrade the blood demon art to supreme level, wouldn't he be able to kill gods and devils? Ordinary techniques? Little Rabbit asked. Madman nodded. Do you think Uncle Rabbit is very free? Little Rabbit glared at Madman and said, I will only help you upgrade 2 legendary level techniques. You can choose. Is there a need to choose? It must be space-time steps and 7 killing sword art. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Because he only had 2 legendary level techniques. As for the return, move, and battle arts, he could upgrade them himself. He didn't need anyone's help. In that case, I will also choose Spectre Ghost Steps and 5 Law Divine Seal. Madman thought for a moment and said. 5 Law Divine Seal? Qin Feiyang was stunned. This is the legendary level technique that the Hall of Famers gave me. Madman said. Is that so? Qin Feiyang nodded. Little Rabbit waved her hand and 4 jade slips appeared. She said, engrave the 4 techniques on them. All right. The 2 of them took the jade slips and quickly finished recording. Give me a moment. The little rabbit collected the remaining 7 jars of black tortoise divine brew and disappeared into the mountain below with the 4 jade slips. Old Qin, don't you think it's strange? Wouldn't it have just given us 2 supreme level heaven-defying techniques? Why did it have to go through so much trouble? Madman frowned. Although he didn't know how to improve it, he knew that it wouldn't be easy to improve a legendary level heaven-defying divine art to a supreme level heaven-defying divine art. Maybe it doesn't have any ready-made ones. After all, it's so strong. A divine art like this might not be able to catch its eye. Or maybe there are other reasons. Anyway, it has its own plans. We just have to follow its plans. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, how about you? How did you convince it to become sworn brothers with us? Madman chuckled and secretly explained the situation. I'm petty. Qin Feiyang's face darkened as he glared at the madman. He actually slandered him behind his back. If he was a petty person, then there was no generous person in this world. Isn't this for our future? Look, now that we've become sworn brothers with it, not to mention other places, just in the heavenly cloud ocean, who dares to provoke us? Madman snickered. Qin Feiyang was speechless. He frowned and said, do you think it's the heavenly cloud ocean's beast god? It? Madman was stunned and shook his head. I really didn't think about this. After thinking for a while, the madman said, actually, it might really be it. Forget it, let's not think about it. If it really is the beast god, then it will naturally be of great benefit to us. Even if it isn't, I think it must have a deep relationship with the beast god of the heavenly cloud ocean. In short, being on good terms with it, we won't lose out. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Yes, that's the reason. Madman nodded. Wang. Suddenly, the void in front of them split open, and a space-time teleportation channel opened. Qin Feiyang and Madman immediately raised their heads and saw three figures walking out one after another. Madman was stunned and asked suspiciously, why are they back again? And they even invited the Hall Master? That's right. These three people were the Demon Hall's Hall Master, Elder Hua, and Chu Yun. I was the one who asked them to come. Qin Feiyang was still quite touched. Before Elder Hua and Madman left, he said that this matter might not be over and he needed their help. The two of them understood and brought their disciples back without saying a word. However, they didn't expect that when they came again, they would bring the Hall Master with them. He hurriedly went up and cupped his hands. Thank you. Elder Hua waved his hand, glanced at the surrounding sea, and asked, where's the vice leader? After you left, he also went back. Qin Feiyang said. Since he went back, then there's no need for us to stay here, right? Chu Yun frowned. No. He'll definitely come looking for me. Qin Feiyang shook his head, then scanned the surroundings. His eyes flashed as he sent a voice transmission, use your divine sense to check if there's anyone else hiding nearby. Hearing this, Elder Hua immediately released his divine sense, which instantly enveloped the surroundings. There's someone. Immediately, a cold light flashed in Elder Hua's eyes, and the time law surged out, surging towards the void on the left. He shouted, Xiao Yun, quick! There's really someone? Qin Feiyang was surprised. He was just in case, but he didn't expect that there would really be someone hiding in the dark spying on them. As soon as Elder Hua finished speaking, Chu Yun immediately began to use the time and space law. In an instant, she descended into the distant sea and threw a punch into the void. Accompanied by a cracking sound, pieces of gravel appeared from the void and flew all over the sky. Following that, a middle-aged man rolled out in a sorry state. It's him. Qin Feiyang frowned. This middle-aged man was the one who brought the Black Wing Emperor here. How dare you spy on my disciple? You're really courting death. Elder Hua also charged over. The time law surged out, and the void around the middle-aged man immediately entered a state of stillness. This was the profundity of the time law, time stillness. At the same time, Chu Yun also charged towards the middle-aged man from the other side. Keep him alive. I want to read his memory. Qin Feiyang hurriedly shouted. However, before he could finish his sentence, the power of 6 laws rushed out of the middle-aged man's body and broke the time stillness. Then, he turned around and fled. I've already come here personally, and you still want to escape? The Demon Hall Master snorted coldly and personally attacked, taking a step forward. In the face of the 3 great leaders of the Demon Hall, the middle-aged man decisively gave up on escaping. He glanced at the 3 of them, and a destructive aura suddenly erupted from his body. In the next instant, his physical body exploded in the void. Self-destruction? The Demon Hall Master raised his eyebrows, and the sovereign divine weapon appeared. Divine power enveloped the surroundings, and in an instant, it forcefully suppressed the fluctuations of the middle-aged man's self-destruction. I didn't expect him to self-destruct. Elder Hua retreated to Qin Feiyang's side and couldn't help but frown. Sigh. Qin Feiyang also looked disappointed. If they could capture this person alive, they would be able to find out the situation of the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor from his memories, as well as where they were imprisoned. This way, it would be easier to rescue them. Next, Chu Yun released her divine sense and searched the surroundings. After confirming that there was no one around, she turned around and returned. The Demon Hall Master also put away the sovereign divine weapon and looked at Qin Feiyang, saying, this person's death is equivalent to alerting the enemy. I don't think the deputy leader will take any further action in the short term, right? No. This person died near Sky Cloud Island. Even if the Blood Hall suspects something, they will only suspect that my brother killed him. They won't suspect you. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Brother? The three of them were stunned. Previously, senior brother Feng Zi, Little Rabbit, and I swore a blood oath and became sworn brothers. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. The three of them were stunned. This Little Rabbit would actually do such a childish thing? As for why Big Brother killed this person, there shouldn't be a reason. After all, he came here to spy on us, which is equivalent to spying on Sky Cloud Island. With Big Brother's personality, would he let him go? Therefore, they will at most hesitate for a while, but in the end, they will still make a move on me because they don't have much time left. Qin Feiyang said. That's true. Little Feng Zi has already stepped into the initial sovereign stage, and you have already stepped into the initial sovereign stage. If we let you continue to grow, it will be even harder to get rid of you in the future. Then let's wait for the deputy leader to deliver himself to us. Elder Hua chuckled. Qin Feiyang, I have a question that I don't understand. Chu Yun suddenly spoke. What question? Qin Feiyang looked at her in confusion. Since you have evidence of the deputy leader in your hands, why don't you tell him directly? Chu Yun asked. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and sighed, this is also a selfish thing of mine. You will understand when the time comes. All right. Chu Yun nodded. Then now, I will invite the three of you to the Black Tortoise Realm to play. Qin Feiyang smiled. I heard from Elder Hua that the Black Tortoise Realm is very magical. I have been looking forward to it for a long time. Chu Yun's eyes were filled with curiosity. There's nothing magical about it. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled, then sent the three of them to the Black Tortoise Realm. He then sent a voice transmission to the Mermaid Princess, asking her to come out of seclusion and personally receive the three of them. After all, they were invited guests, so they naturally had to be treated with the highest courtesy. Immediately after, Qin Feiyang glanced at the surrounding sea and returned to Sky Cloud Island. What a pity. However, I admire this person's ruthlessness. With such a powerful cultivation, he actually self-destructed without hesitation. Madman shook his head. Elder Hua and the other two giants, plus the sovereign divine weapon. With such a lineup, he has no way to survive. Speaking of which, he made a wise decision. Because he self-destructed, we won't be able to find out the situation of the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor from his memories. Qin Feiyang said. When Madman heard this, he was silent for a while before asking, after dealing with the deputy leader, are we going to the Western continent? Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked towards the west. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he nodded and said, it is indeed time to go. Moreover, this time, we will not leave the Western continent until we destroy the Blood Hall. When Madman heard this, he laughed loudly. His laughter was filled with anticipation, and of course, there was also a trace of killing intent. Chapter 3260. The next day, the little rabbit appeared and threw 4 jade slips to Qin Feiyang and Madman. So fast? The two looked at it in surprise. This is fast. It's already been 5,000 years. The little rabbit took out a jar of black tortoise divine wine and said as it drank. What? 1,000 years? The two looked at each other. Wasn't it only a day? Could it be, somewhere on this island, there was a time array that lasted 5,000 years per day? It's just as you think. How about it, are you jealous? The little rabbit looked at the two proudly. It's true. Great waves of shock rose in their hearts. 5,000 years of time law in one day, this was too outrageous. One had to know. Even the Blood Demon Tower was only 2,000 years in a day at its peak. Now, the Black Tortoise world was only 1,000 years in a day. If they could cultivate here, wouldn't it be much easier? Big brother, the madman rolled his eyes and smiled fawningly at Little Rabbit. Stop. But before Madman could say anything, the little rabbit waved its paw and said with a dark face, "Don't have any ideas about my time array. When we became sworn brothers yesterday, didn't we say that we would share blessings and hardships? Why did you forget about us in the blink of an eye?" Madman pouted, his face filled with sadness. "Can you not mention yesterday's matter to me? Uncle Rabbit is angry just thinking about it." The little rabbit fiercely glared at the madman. Then, she looked at the two powerlessly and said, "Comprehending the profound laws doesn't have much to do with time. If you're lucky, you'll be able to comprehend it in minutes. If you're unlucky, not to mention 5,000 years, even if you were given 10,000 years, it wouldn't be meaningful." "That's true." Qin Feiyang nodded. "So, the most important thing is to walk around and take a look. The simpler something is, the more likely it is to hide the truth and mysteries. Observe with your heart. Alright, hurry up and cultivate these divine arts. Who knows, it might bring you an unexpected surprise." The little rabbit smiled mysteriously. An unexpected surprise? Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other and quickly entered the castle. Purple gold dragon blood, the power of evil, interesting, interesting. The little rabbit looked at the place where the two of them had disappeared, a playful smile flashing in her eyes. Black Tortoise World. 1,000 years had passed. The injuries of the Sword Emperor and Black Wing Emperor had long since healed. Looking at his former companions, such as Xia Yuan and the others, who had already reached the great circle of the imperishable realm and were traveling the world, comprehending the power of laws and attempting to break through to the half-step sovereign realm, he couldn't help but sigh. Time really flew by. In particular, the achievements of Qin Feiyang and the madman made them even more dumbfounded. Similarly, they already had a comprehensive understanding of the sky cloud realm. However, the departure of Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang made them feel a little regretful. As for the Black Tortoise realm, they were naturally not unfamiliar with it. The Devil's Land had not changed much, but the other places had long since changed. However, in a strange place like the Sky Cloud realm, the Black Tortoise realm was undoubtedly a home for them. When he arrived here, his heart immediately calmed down. The Devil Hall's Hall Master, Elder Hua, and Chu Yun also stayed at ease in the Black Tortoise world. However, their curiosity towards the Black Tortoise world was far greater than that of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's talent was very good, but an independent world was more attractive to them. Sometimes they even thought how good it would be if their Devil Hall also had such an independent world. As for Yi Tian, at first, he still had some resistance in his heart when he stayed in the Devil's Land, but as time passed, he slowly began to get used to it. Since he was already here, he might as well make the best of it. After the green-clothed woman woke up and found out that this was an independent world, her eyes also widened. This was too shocking. Where did this Qin Feiyang come from? An independent world, not to mention someone like her. Even the peak figures of the older generation did not dare to think about it. Yi Tian and Chu Yun's residence was adjacent to Elder Hua's residence. Because of this, the two sides often met. At first, when they saw Elder Hua and the other two were also here, the two were really shocked and were very reserved when interacting with each other. However, as they slowly got along, they realized that Elder Hua and the other two were not arrogant at all. They were humble and amiable. Moreover, they could feel that the three of them treated them as their own juniors. Sometimes, they would chat with them, talk about life philosophy, and even teach them cultivation. Thus, gradually, the two opened their hearts and accepted the three of them. In short, the atmosphere in the Devil's Land was very harmonious. Outside, time passed day by day. In just a mere 5 days, legends about Qin Feiyang and Madman appeared in the eastern, western, northern, and southern continents. Especially in the eastern continent. What? Qin Feiyang and Madman are Mo Wuyuan and Mo Wuhui? Oh my god, how did they do it? Not only did they successfully sneak into the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, but they also became the Deputy Alliance leader and the personal disciple of the Hall of Famers. When I heard about them before, I thought it was a bit exaggerated. I never thought that it would be even more exaggerated than this. I am completely convinced by these two. I think there is nothing in this world that they can't do. What is this? I also heard that in this exchange meet, Qin Feiyang and Madman defeated the three geniuses of the Blood Hall. Reportedly, that Qin Feiyang's opponent not only grasped the fifth profundity of the three great laws, he also possessed an utmost exalted level heaven-defying support deity technique and 2 utmost exalted level heaven-defying divine artifacts. Yet, in the end, he was still killed by Qin Feiyang. I also heard that Qin Feiyang grasped the fifth profound of the karma law. It is ridiculously strong. The most important thing is that before the Blood Hall challenged the two of them, they also set an unfair rule. They are not allowed to activate their fighting souls and activate, what is it? I can't remember. Yes, it is the 3000 clones and the slaughter domain, although I don't know what it is enough to make the Blood Hall set this unfair rule. It is enough to show that the Blood Hall is very afraid of it. It must be their trump card. But even with this unfair rule, the geniuses of the Blood Hall were still defeated by the two of them. You can imagine how strong the two of them are. In the end, Qin Feiyang and Madman showed their invincible might and challenged all the disciples of the Blood Hall. But in the end, no one dared to really accept the challenge. The two leaders of the Blood Hall even took their disciples and fled back to the Western continent with their tails between their legs. Although I didn't see it with my own eyes, just thinking about it makes my blood boil. They became famous in one battle and shook the entire Sky Cloud realm. As for the Blood Hall, there is no doubt that they will become a joke in our Sky Cloud realm. Such discussions could be heard all over the Sky Cloud realm. As for the people who spread the news, it must be the Demon Hall, Sky Hall, and Divine Hall. It was a good opportunity to suppress the Blood Hall. Bastards, a bunch of useless good-for-nothings. In the Western continent. In a certain hall, Old Hai stood in the hall and raged. The Blood Hall's forces were spread all over the Sky Cloud realm, so they immediately received the situation of each continent. Although they were mentally prepared, they still couldn't help but be angry. As for the useless good-for-nothings he mentioned, it was naturally referring to the core disciples of the Blood Hall who went to participate in the exchange. Especially Nie Xiang, the more he thought about it, the angrier he became. After giving him so many supreme-grade divine objects, he still died in the hands of Qin Feiyang. If it was Qin Feiyang, even if he was only in the initial sovereign realm, he could probably turn the tide with these divine objects. Enough. It has already happened. What's the use of being angry? Quickly contact Wang Shan and ask if the two of them have returned to the Demon Hall. A blood-red-clothed old man sat above and looked at Old Hai. Then, he looked at the Grand Deacon next to him. This person was the Blood Hall Master. The Grand Deacon took out a divine sound transmission stone, but in the next moment, his body stiffened and his face turned gloomy. What's wrong? The blood-red-clothed old man looked at him suspiciously. The contract bridge between me and Wang Yuan disappeared. The Grand Deacon swallowed his saliva and looked up at the blood-red-clothed old man. Disappeared? The Blood Hall Master raised his eyebrows. Yes. The Grand Deacon nodded. When Old Hai heard this, he quickly took out a divine sound transmission stone to check. His expression stiffened as he looked at the Blood Hall Master and said in a deep voice, "It has indeed disappeared. Then it seems that he's most likely dead." The Blood Hall Master sighed. Wang Shan was the middle-aged man who was monitoring Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist on Sky Cloud Island. But Wang Shan is a perfect sovereign. Old Hai frowned. So what if he's a perfect sovereign? Qin Feiyang has a sovereign divine weapon. Moreover, he has the slaughter domain. Moreover, he might have died in the hands of the little rabbit. After all, the little rabbit and Qin Feiyang have a close relationship. However, what's the relationship between the little rabbit and Qin Feiyang? The Blood Hall Master frowned. In my opinion, their relationship isn't that deep. It's just that they're smarter. They catered to her interests and won her favor. The Grand Deacon put away the divine sound transmission stone and shook his head. They don't have much ability, but they're quite good at pleasing others. Old Hai snorted coldly. This is also a kind of ability, especially for an existence like the little rabbit. If you can please it, you can reverse the situation. Don't be unconvinced. These two are indeed more outstanding than our Blood Hall disciples. If it weren't for the fact that I had no choice, I wouldn't want to be enemies with them. The Blood Hall Master sighed. Then what should we do now? Old Hai frowned. The Blood Hall Master pondered for a moment, then looked at the two and said, "Carry out the second plan. Tell the Vice Alliance leader that we can't fail again. Also, tell him that we'll cooperate with him fully." Okay. Old Hai nodded. His eyes flickered with shocking killing intent as he snorted coldly. "This time, I'll go to the Eastern Continent personally." After Old Hai left, the Blood Hall Master looked at the Grand Deacon and said, "Go and transfer the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor to another place." Why? The Grand Deacon was suspicious. Qin Feiyang has a kind of secret technique that can read memories. I'm worried that the Royal Mountain will fall into his hands. If it really falls into his hands, with his intelligence, he will definitely find a way to read the memories of the Royal Mountain. In this way, won't he know where the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor are imprisoned? So, just in case, it's best to transfer them. The Blood Hall Master said. Understood. The Grand Deacon nodded in response, then turned around and strode away. Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, I don't believe that with the power and status of the Blood Hall, we can't defeat you two brats. The Blood Hall Master muttered, and a trace of killing intent flashed across his eyes. He got up and disappeared without a trace. Chapter 3261. On the same day. Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Outside the Azure Wave Snow Mountain, in an ice valley in the evening. Two figures stood facing each other, their eyes extremely gloomy. These two people were Old Hai and the Vice Leader. I gave you so much time, but not only did you not succeed, you even made him your personal disciple. Don't you think it's ridiculous? If I knew you were such a trash, my Blood Hall wouldn't have cooperated with you. Old Hai shouted. When the Vice Leader heard this, he immediately flew into a rage and shouted, "You still have the face to talk about me? If it weren't for you guys, Qin Feiyang would have already confessed to me. Maybe he would be a corpse now. You also said that it's just an estimate." Old Hai sneered. But it's still better than your rotten idea. Look at how humiliated your Blood Hall was at the exchange conference. Now your Blood Hall has really become a joke in the Sky Cloud realm. The Vice Leader mocked mercilessly. Old Hai clenched his fists, his eyes gloomy and scary. What? Did I touch your sore spot? You even vowed that you would definitely get rid of them at the exchange conference, but what happened in the end? You went for wool and came back shorn. I really admire the core disciples of your Blood Hall. Look at my Rogue Cultivator Alliance, although its status is not as good as your 4 super forces, my disciple Wang Kuang defeated the core disciples of the Demon Hall in the first battle. As for your Blood Hall, you lost all 3 battles and your reputation hit rock bottom. Now that I'm cooperating with you, I feel ashamed. The vice leader sneered, his eyes full of disdain. Old Hai stared at the vice leader, his heart filled with anger. Look at your eyes, you want to kill me? But I'm afraid you don't have the ability. The vice leader sneered. Huff. Old Hai took a deep breath, suppressing the anger in his heart, and said in a deep voice, I'm not here to quarrel with you. The Hall Master has ordered us to carry out the second plan. The vice leader raised his eyebrows and said, he's your Hall Master, not mine. He said to carry out the second plan. Do I have to listen? The anger in Old Hai's heart couldn't be suppressed, and he roared in a deep voice, don't forget, we are all on the same boat now. Even if we are on the same boat, I still have the right to choose. The vice leader sneered. What do you mean? Old Hai stared at him gloomily. Although I'm cooperating with your Blood Hall, no one else knows about this except for us. Thus, even now, there's nothing wrong with me taking care of you all, no? After all, the Eastern Continent and the Western Continent are enemies to begin with. This way, I will be able to gain everyone's support. The Vice Alliance Master sneered. You want to betray us? Old Hai clenched his fists. We were originally in a cooperative relationship. How can there be any betrayal? The Vice Alliance leader said calmly. What are you trying to do? Old Hai roared. A trace of greed appeared in the vice leader's eyes as he said, you should know what I need. We've already come to an agreement. Once we kill them, the sovereign weapon will be yours. What else do you want? Old Hai said furiously. Sovereign weapons are indeed powerful, but can they compare to a world? The vice leader sneered. Old C's heart skipped a beat, growling, you want the Black Tortoise world? That's right. The vice leader nodded. Wild ambition. If we knew earlier, we wouldn't have told you about the Black Tortoise world. Old Hai was furious. Even if you didn't tell me about the Black Tortoise world, it would have been exposed sooner or later. What do you think? If you agree, we will continue to cooperate. If not, I will work with the Demon Palace and Qin Feiyang. I don't need to tell you what will happen then. You should know in your heart. The vice leader chuckled. Old Hai's face was extremely gloomy. He never thought that this person would take the opportunity to extort the Blood Hall. But suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. A trace of a smile appeared on his face as he said, have you forgotten that he is now, in our Blood Hall? If we let him go now, do you think you will have a way to live? The vice leader was furious when he heard this and shouted, you haven't killed him yet? How can we bear to kill such a person? Old Hai immediately took the initiative with a smile on his face. What do you mean? Don't tell me you want him to submit to your Blood Hall? Let me tell you, stop dreaming. Because no one knows his character and temper better than me. The vice leader said angrily. We will only know after we try. How about it? Now, do you still think you have the qualifications to negotiate with us? Old Hai looked at the vice leader with a face full of ridicule. This time, it was the vice leader's face that was extremely gloomy. It was as if this him was his Achilles heel. Ha! Suddenly, the vice leader laughed out loud and looked at Old Hai, I was just joking with you earlier. Don't take it seriously. Joke? Old Hai's eyes flashed with a hint of ridicule as he waved his hand and said, it's okay, I was just joking with you. Since it's all a joke, let's get down to business. The vice leader laughed. All right. Old Hai nodded. I will arrange the second plan, but I need your cooperation. After all, he has the sovereign divine weapon in his hands. I am afraid of accidents. But the initial condition cannot be changed. The sovereign divine weapon in Qin Feiyang's hands must belong to me in the end. The vice leader said. Don't worry about this, because this is what you deserve. We will not snatch it from you. Old Hai chuckled. Okay. Then that's it. Wait for my news. After the vice leader finished speaking, he rose into the air and returned to the Alliance capital. Old fox, you still want to fight with me? Look at your own weight. Not to mention the Black Tortoise realm, even if it's the sovereign divine weapon, don't get it in the end. Old Hai looked at the vice leader's back with a trace of ridicule in his eyes, and then disappeared without a trace. Looking at the vice leader again. After leaving the ice valley, his face suddenly became gloomy. He never thought that the Blood Hall would still keep this person. This person was of great importance. If he didn't die, sooner or later, he would bring a disaster to him. But now, this person was in the hands of the Blood Hall. Even if he wanted to, there was no way to get rid of him. Damn it, damn it. There was an anger in his heart that could not be vented. When the vice leader returned to the Alliance capital, he saw an old man in white standing in front of the door. The vice leader frowned, but then a light flashed in his eyes. This person could be used. Then, he sorted out his emotions and landed in the courtyard. Looking at the old man in white, he frowned and said, "What are you doing here?" The old man in white was the Hall of Famers. "I'm here to see you." The Hall of Famers smiled slightly. "It's not like I haven't seen you before. What's there to see?" The vice leader snorted and walked toward the wooden building. "Aren't you going to invite this old man in?" The Hall of Famers was stunned. "The temple is too small to accommodate a big Buddha like you." The vice leader entered the wooden building without looking back. The Hall of Famers smiled helplessly and followed him into the wooden building without being invited. "I say, old man, why is your skin so thick?" The vice leader sat by the tea table and glared at the Hall of Famers. "Can't you see that I'm annoyed now?" "Then let this old man guess, what are you annoyed about?" The Hall of Famers sat opposite the vice leader and did not stand on ceremony. While making tea, he smiled and said, "Are you annoyed by Qin Feiyang? Can you not mention him?" The vice leader raised his eyebrows. Okay. The Hall of Famers nodded. After making tea, he poured 2 cups and handed one to the vice leader. He held the other cup to his nose and sniffed it. Then, he shook his head and said, "I still feel that the tea made by Qin Feiyang's tea leaves is better." "What's the name of his tea leaves again?" "You're doing this on purpose, aren't you?" The vice leader immediately glared at the Hall of Famers. The Hall of Famers shook his head and laughed. He took a sip of tea and said with a smile, "It's been a few days since you came back, but every time I see you, you look annoyed. If you really can't let it go, then put down your pride and go find him." "You want me to go find him personally?" The Vice Alliance leader was just about to drink his tea. When he heard this, he immediately had a look of anger on his face. "That's right. Look at this old man. I put down my pride and took the initiative to find little madman. Isn't he my disciple now? Although he joined the Demon Hall, in terms of relationship, he's definitely closer to his disciple. Look at you. Don't you feel uncomfortable being so tense? Besides, can face be eaten?" The Hall of Famers shook his head. "After all this time, you're here to be a lobbyist?" The vice leader frowned. "I'm not speaking for anyone. It's for your own good, and also for the good of our Rogue Cultivator Alliance. You've seen Qin Feiyang's talent. This old man dares to conclude that it won't be long before he becomes an overlord of our eastern continent. Even in the entire Sky Cloud realm, he will have a certain amount of authority. Coupled with Little Madman, who can shake our Rogue Cultivator Alliance's position in the eastern continent in the future?" The Hall of Famers smiled confidently. The vice leader looked at him deeply and sighed. All I'll tell you something from the bottom of my heart. I do like Qin Feiyang. I also know that it was my fault in the past that led to this outcome, but, at this point, the vice leader let out another long sigh, looking extremely disappointed. You've overcome the hurdle in your heart? The Hall of Famers asked. Yes. I've already proposed to reconcile and even stopped pursuing Yi Yuan's death, but they still came to the Alliance capital to investigate me. Don't you think this kind of behavior is a humiliation to my character? The vice leader said angrily. Then you have to think about them. You're not an ordinary person. You're the vice leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. You're very powerful. You suddenly changed your mind and proposed to reconcile. How can they not be cautious? The Hall of Famers shook his head and sighed. To be honest, this old man actually admires them. There aren't many young people in this world who are as meticulous as them. Besides, Qin Feiyang has already said in person on Sky Cloud Island that he's going to find an opportunity to confess to you. This means that he still believes in you and cares about you as his master. So, don't put on airs. Take the initiative. After all, losing such a disciple isn't something to be happy about. It's your loss. The master of the Hall of the Exalted advised earnestly. Chapter 3262. The Hall of Famers sincerely hoped that the vice leader and Qin Feiyang could reconcile. Because whether it was for an individual or for the itinerant cultivator alliance, it would be greatly beneficial. However, the vice leader was using the Hall of Famers. Because with the Hall of Famers helping him, it would be easier for him to gain Qin Feiyang's trust. It could be said that his intentions were punishable. What I said makes sense, right? The Hall of Famers looked at the vice leader and asked with a smile. It does make sense, but, the vice leader hesitated again. Do you have other concerns? The Hall of Famers was doubtful. Yes. The vice leader sighed deeply and said worriedly, in the past, I targeted them so much and even put them on the wanted list all over the continent. Do you think they will really forgive me? So that's what you're worried about. You saw Little Lunatic's attitude, right? He doesn't hate us at all. The Hall of Famers smiled. Little Lunatic doesn't hate you because you didn't do anything to them. But I'm different. The vice leader frowned. You're already so old, yet you're still so timid. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? The Hall of Famers smiled helplessly and said, how about this, you send a message to Qin Feiyang, and I'll help you. The Vice Alliance Master looked hesitant. Can you be more decisive? Is this still the evil tyrant Old Man Yi that I know? The Hall of Famers was speechless. You're the evil tyrant. The vice leader glared at the Hall of Famers. In fact, he was waiting for the Hall of Famers to say this and help him. Hurry up, I don't have time to waste here with you. The Hall of Famers urged. The vice leader pondered for a while, gritted his teeth, and took out the divine voice stone. One had to admit that he was really good at acting. He vividly displayed the hesitation, struggle, anxiety, nervousness, and anticipation in his heart. Black Tortoise World. 5 days outside was 5,000 years here. Above the blood sea of the western regions. The two figures were constantly clashing. The two of them were Qin Feiyang and Madman. After recomprehending the spacetime steps, 7 deadly sword art, specter ghost steps, and 5 spells divine seal, both of them felt different from before. Therefore, as soon as they came out of seclusion, they went to the sky above the blood sea to spar and test the power of the 4 great divine arts. In the end, he discovered that this was indeed the case. Not only had the spacetime steps and ghost steps undergone a qualitative transformation, but the 7 deadly sword art and 5 spell divine seal had also become stronger. For example, the 7 deadly sword art was originally 1 sword for 1 kill, and each sword was stronger than the previous one. But now, the 7 swords could be fused. It was similar to the Guiyuan sword technique's 9x9 return to 1. However, it was clear that comprehending the fusion of the 7 deadly sword technique was more difficult than comprehending the Guiyuan sword technique. After all, the Guiyuan sword technique was just an ordinary divine technique, while the 7 deadly sword technique was a heaven-defying divine technique. They were on completely different levels. In addition to being able to fuse this move, there was another aspect that could be improved. That was, each sword could summon a piece of blood lightning. The power of this blood lightning was also extremely terrifying. In addition to the 7 deadly sword art and 5 spell divine seal, the spacetime steps and ghost steps had also evolved into auxiliary and killing divine techniques. In the past, these 2 divine techniques were purely auxiliary divine techniques. But now, they also had extremely strong killing power. After repeated confirmation, these 4 divine techniques could basically crush all supreme-level heaven-defying divine techniques. Just like the kill character art, they were invincible in the same realm. For Qin Feiyang and Madman, this was undoubtedly another increase in strength. Wang. The 2 were fighting enthusiastically when suddenly, the divine sound transmission stone rang. Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He looked up at Madman and said, "Wait a moment." With that, he stopped and took out the divine sound transmission stone. With one look, a flash of light flashed across his eyes. "Who is it?" Seeing this, Madman walked in front of Qin Feiyang and asked. "Take a guess." Qin Feiyang smiled mockingly. "Looking at your expression, this daddy knows that it must be the deputy leader. This old thing finally can't sit still anymore." Madman laughed sinisterly. Qin Feiyang smiled and activated the divine sound transmission stone. Wang. At this moment, 2 phantoms appeared. "He's here too?" Qin Feiyang looked at the Hall of Famers next to him and couldn't help but be slightly stunned. "Why are both of you injured?" The Hall of Famers looked at the 2 suspiciously. "We were sparring just now." Madman grinned and then said, "Why, you're starting to miss us so soon? Don't talk nonsense." The Hall of Famers stared at Madman, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "It's your master who has something to say to you." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He turned to look at the deputy leader and said with a melancholy expression, "There should be nothing left to say between us." "What are you talking about? You are master and disciple, why don't you have anything to say?" The Hall of Famers looked at Qin Feiyang unhappily. "But I lied to you." Qin Feiyang lowered his head, as if he was a little guilty and didn't dare to look at the 2 of them. In terms of acting skills, he didn't lose to anyone. See, he's still blaming himself. Seeing this, the Hall of Famers looked at the deputy leader and laughed. "I'm not blind." The deputy leader rolled his eyes and looked up at Qin Feiyang. He sighed and said, "To be honest, I don't know how to deal with our relationship now, speaking of which." The deputy leader changed the topic and a smile appeared on his old face. He said, "But fortunately, there's a busybody like old man Qi who enlightened me." Madman heard this and looked at the Hall of Famers unhappily. "Old man, you really like to meddle in other people's business. Why are you blindly interfering in other people's affairs? How can you talk to your master like that? Do you have any manners?" The Hall of Famers suddenly blew his beard and glared at him. "The truth." Madman responded indifferently. "You, traitor!" The master of the Hall of the Exalted glared fiercely at the madman. He then looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "It took me a lot of effort to enlighten this old man. As a junior, you shouldn't be so stubborn. How would I dare? Now I'm a little scared." Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. "What are you afraid of?" The Hall of Famers was suspicious. "I'm afraid that master won't forgive me for deceiving him." Qin Feiyang sighed. "Old man Yi, did you hear that?" He's still calling you master. The Hall of Famers smiled and transmitted his voice. The deputy leader also smiled and looked at Qin Feiyang. He asked, then what I did to you before, it's all in the past. There's no need to mention it again. Moreover, Wang Hui is a member of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. By standing up for him, it can be considered a form of righteousness and shielding him. Don't misunderstand. I'm not mocking you when I say shielding him. This shielding depends on who you're dealing with. If I'm an outsider, I'll definitely feel uncomfortable if you shield me. But I'm your disciple, so I should be happy that you're shielding me. Because when I go out in the future, I won't be afraid of anyone because I have you protecting me. Qin Feiyang said. The deputy leader was stunned and said speechlessly, this is obviously twisted logic. Why do I feel that it makes sense after listening to you? Ha! Qin Feiyang grinned and asked, in that case, Master, you've already forgiven me? What else? You're such an outstanding disciple. Would I be willing to give you to the Demon Hall? No matter who it is, we can't give it to the Demon Hall. The deputy leader smiled. Thank you, Master. Don't worry. Even if I'm a member of the Demon Hall now, my heart will always be with the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. The Rogue Cultivator Alliance will always be my home, Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang said. Good, good, good. Master didn't misjudge you. The deputy leader nodded with a gratified smile on his face. Then, he asked, then where are you? We're still in the heavenly cloud ocean, preparing to head to the western continent. Qin Feiyang said. What? You're going to the Blood Hall? Both of them were shocked. Yes. As you know, we still have 2 elders in the hands of the Blood Hall, so we have to go to the western continent. Qin Feiyang said. The deputy leader frowned and said, but with your current strength, Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and said with a firm gaze, our current strength is indeed not that great, but I firmly believe that we can do it. Hearing this, both of them fell silent. After a long time, the deputy leader sighed. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, looking at your attitude, Master knows that I definitely can't persuade you. How about this, give Master the coordinates, and Master will send you 2 supreme-level heaven-defying divine artifacts as a form of support. Really? Qin Feiyang was pleasantly surprised. Yes. The deputy leader nodded. Then didn't you say before that you don't have any extra supreme-level heaven-defying divine artifacts? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The supreme-level heaven-defying divine artifacts of our Rogue Cultivator Alliance are indeed not as rich as the Demon Palace, but we can still take out 1 or 2. The deputy leader smiled slightly. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization and then smiled gratefully, thank you, Master. Old man, look at how much the deputy leader loves his disciple. Aren't you going to express your gratitude to me? Frenzy looked at the Hall of Famers with a face full of envy and jealousy. Who is the master and who is the disciple? Shouldn't you be the one to show filial piety to me? The Hall of Famers said angrily. Don't worry, when you are old and can't walk anymore, I will definitely show filial piety to you. For now, you should help me first. Frenzy chuckled. Hearing this, the corners of the Hall of Famers' mouth twitched slightly, and his face was full of helplessness. All right, Master will also send you a supreme-level heaven-defying divine art later, lest you slander me behind my back and say that I am stingy. But in his heart, he was quite happy. Everyone knew Frenzy's personality. The closer he was to someone, the more impudent and casual he would be. This also meant that there was no wariness or barrier between them. They got along like friends, and their relationship was the deepest. No, I have never seen someone as good as you, Master. Frenzy chuckled. The Hall of Famers shook his head and laughed. Why did it seem like his mouth was smeared with honey? It seemed that this matter had deepened the relationship between the master and his disciple. Qin Feiyang thought for a moment, looked at the deputy leader, and said with a smile, "How about this? We are not familiar with the sea of heavenly clouds. Give us a coordinate, and we will meet up with you." "Okay." The deputy leader nodded, thought for a moment, and said, "Then let's meet at White Crane Island." After saying that, the deputy leader gave Qin Feiyang a coordinate. "Okay, let's go wash the blood stains on our bodies first. See you later." After Qin Feiyang said that, he turned off the divine sound transmission stone. When the two figures disappeared, Frenzy immediately looked at Qin Feiyang and grinned. "Not bad, both of you are best actor." Chapter 3263. You're not bad either. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Tisk, I have a true master-disciple relationship with Old Man Qi, unlike you and the vice leader, both of you have ulterior motives." Madman's face was full of disdain, then a playful look appeared on his face. The good show finally began. A true master-disciple relationship, Qin Feiyang lowered his head and muttered. He sighed, "I hope this plan can be exchanged for a true master-disciple relationship." "Plan?" Madman was stunned. "You will understand when the time comes." Qin Feiyang smiled and waved his hand, bringing Madman to the Devil's Land. He saw the mermaid princess entertaining them as they sat in the tea garden, drinking tea and chatting. Yi Tian, the woman in green, and the fire dragon were also accompanying them. However, the fire dragon and the other two were drinking wine, and it was Black Tortoise divine wine. In the Black Tortoise world, they were very relaxed. When they had nothing to do, they would run to Pai Lupi and Theta Wang to drink wine. They were three living drunkards. "Everyone, are you used to living here?" Qin Feiyang and Madman landed in the tea garden and smiled at the group of people. "Not used to it, let me out now." "Let me tell you, don't think about putting us under house arrest, we won't be threatened by you." The woman in green snorted. "Sorry, even if you want to live here for a long time, we won't agree." Madman laughed. "Did I talk to you?" The woman in green looked at him angrily. Why was this guy everywhere? Was he Qin Feiyang's follower? Madman was slightly stunned and looked at her without blinking. "Why are you looking at me like that?" The woman in green hid behind Yi Tian in fear. "You have to know that this is the Black Tortoise world. Even if I rape you and kill you, I won't be able to help you." Madman snickered. "You stinking rogue." The woman in green's cheeks turned red and she immediately cursed. "Alright, now is not the time to bicker." Qin Feiyang extended his hand to stop lunatic. He glanced at Yi Tian, then looked at Elder Hua and the other two and said, "He sent me a message and asked to meet me at White Crane Island." As expected, he couldn't hold it in any longer. Elder Hua shook his head and sighed. "Yeah. Let's hope that we can settle this once and for all. At the same time, we can also find out the whereabouts of the Alliance Master and the others." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Alliance Master's whereabouts? What do you mean?" When Yi Tian and the woman in green heard this, they immediately looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. In the meantime, a cold light flashed in the fire dragon's eyes. "Don't worry, you'll know soon enough." Qin Feiyang looked at the two and said with a smile. He then closed his eyes and found Fire Lotus. He transmitted his voice, "Girl, come here for a moment." Very soon, Fire Lotus appeared beside Qin Feiyang out of thin air and bowed to Elder Hua, "Greetings, Master." Seeing Fire Lotus appear, Elder Hua's face was full of smiles as he asked, "How's your comprehension of the fifth profound of the time law?" "I'm still one step away," Fire Lotus said. "Not bad, not bad. When this matter is over, I'll give you some pointers." Elder Hua said with a gratified smile. He was very satisfied with this obedient, sensible, and talented disciple. All right. Fire Lotus nodded and turned to look at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. When senior brother Madman and I go out, you'll show the scene outside to everyone. Qin Feiyang said. All right. Fire Lotus nodded. Qin Feiyang closed his eyes again and extended his perception to the entire western region. He looked at the endless sea of blood. After all these years, the Black Tortoise world had grown a lot. Naturally, the western region had become bigger and there was more blood than before. Now, it was enough for him to open the slaughter domain twice. The capital to open the slaughter domain twice was enough to deal with the upcoming danger. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang seemed to have thought of something and opened his eyes. He looked at Elder Hua and said, Elder Hua, come here for a moment. I have something to ask you. Elder Hua was stunned and followed Qin Feiyang suspiciously. He walked to the side and said, What do you want to ask? Don't you have a spy from the Rogue Cultivator Alliance in your Devil Palace? I think before the Vice Alliance leader takes action, he will check with this spy to see if you guys are in the Devil Palace. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice. About that. Don't worry, we've already thought of this. So when we left the Devil Palace, we asked 3 elders to disguise themselves as us and guard the Devil Palace. These 3 elders can be trusted. And when we left, we also left secretly. So now everyone thinks that we're still in the Devil Palace. Elder Hua smiled faintly. The older the ginger, the spicier it is. Qin Feiyang's face was full of admiration. All right, don't worry and go. We will support you at any time. Elder Hua patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder and gave him an encouraging look. Thank you. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and thanked him. Then, he walked to Madman's side and waved his hand. The two immediately appeared on Sky Cloud Island. Big brother, you're energetic. You're still drinking. Madman looked at Little Rabbit who was still lying on the stone and chuckled. Energetic my ass. Look at what kind of wine this is. It's simply trash. Little Rabbit glanced at the two of them listlessly. The two looked at the wine jar next to Little Rabbit. Sure enough, it wasn't Black Tortoise Divine Wine, but it was still a top-grade wine. In the past, I thought that this top-grade wine was not bad. But now, I'm used to drinking Black Tortoise Divine Wine. This thing is completely tasteless in my mouth. Little Rabbit shook her head. You finished all 8 jars? Qin Feiyang asked in astonishment. It's been 5 or 6 days. Even if I drank a jar a day, it would be gone. I'm already very frugal, but it just can't hold up. After drinking a few mouthfuls, it's gone. Right, so many days have passed. You should have brewed a new Black Tortoise Divine Wine, right? Little Rabbit sat up and looked at Qin Feiyang expectantly. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. With a wave of his hand, 10 jars of Black Tortoise Divine Wine appeared. Third brother, you're so righteous. Little Rabbit's eyes lit up and gave Qin Feiyang a thumbs up. Then, she hugged a jar and gulped it down. Don't drink so much. No matter how good wine is, drinking too much is harmful to the body. Qin Feiyang advised. It's fine. Big brother's body is very tough. Little Rabbit waved her little paws without a care. All right, we're going to White Crane Island. There might be danger later. Big brother, you have to help. Qin Feiyang smiled. No problem, let's go. Little Rabbit agreed straightforwardly. There was nothing that a jar of divine wine couldn't solve with her. Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other and smiled. They went into the sea to wash the blood on their bodies. Then, they opened a space-time gate and headed to White Crane Island. At the same time that Qin Feiyang and Madman returned to the Devil's Land, in the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, the Hall of Famers looked at the vice leader and smiled. Old Man Yi, you can rest assured now. Yes. At least I didn't lose this disciple. The vice leader nodded and put away the voice transmission stone. He stood up and said, I'll go alone. Give me the supreme heaven-defying divine artifact that you want to give to Madman. I'll bring it to you. The Hall of Famers was stunned and shook her head. How can that be? Why not? Are you afraid that I'll swallow it? The vice leader rolled his eyes. What are you thinking? Aren't they going to the Western continent? That's why I want to send them off personally. After all, I don't know when they'll be back. They might never come back. The Hall of Famers sighed. Hearing this, the vice leader raised his eyebrows. Why does this old thing like to join in on the fun? However, seeing that the Hall of Famers was determined to go, he didn't dare to stop her to avoid arousing suspicion. All right then, wait for me. I'll go get the divine artifact. The Vice Alliance Master smiled without batting an eyelid. Then, he turned around and entered the secret passage in the backyard. After entering the secret passage, he took out the divine voice transmission stone. Buzz. Soon. Elder Hai's image appeared. The vice leader said, the plan can be carried out. The location is at White Crane Island. They might have already arrived. Be careful when you go. Don't be discovered by them. You're still the best. Elder Hai laughed. However, there's an accident. The vice leader frowned again. What accident? Elder Hai frowned. The Hall of Famers also wants to go. The Vice Alliance Master briefly explained the reason. It's fine. At most, I'll kill him too. Elder Hai waved his hand and said, however, the Hall Master of the Demon Palace, Elder Hua, and Chu Yun, I'm very concerned about them. By the way, don't you have a spy in the Demon Palace? Quickly confirm with him whether the three of them are in the Demon Palace now. I've already confirmed it yesterday. They're all in the Demon Palace. There's nothing unusual. The vice leader said. Yesterday was yesterday. Today is today. I don't want any unexpected discoveries, so you should confirm it again. Elder Hai said. All right. The vice leader nodded and turned off the voice transmission stone. Then, he activated it again. He didn't want any more accidents to happen. This matter had been dragged on for too long and couldn't be dragged on any longer. Otherwise, with Qin Feiyang and Frenzy's talents, they would lose control sooner or later. Buzz. Not long later. A middle-aged man in a golden robe appeared. He was about 40 years old and sat on a chair made of Phoebesian wood. He emitted the aura of a superior. What's wrong? The middle-aged man in the golden robe looked at the vice leader without any respect. Although the middle-aged man in the golden robe was the vice leader's spy, he was only in a cooperative relationship with the vice leader. I just want to confirm if Chu Yun and the others are in the Demon Palace. The vice leader smiled. Didn't you confirm it yesterday? The middle-aged man in the golden robe frowned. Isn't it better to be safe than sorry? The vice leader smiled. You're quite cautious. Don't worry, I just found an excuse to meet them. The middle-aged man in the golden robe smiled. Thank you. The vice leader heaved a sigh of relief and thanked him. Then, he turned off the voice transmission stone and replied to Elder Hai. Then, he left the secret passage, found the Hall of Famers, and rushed out. Because it was impossible to activate any space-time teleportation divine artifacts in this barrier, they could only fly out first and then activate the space-time teleportation divine artifacts. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.